Okay, my friends, once again, it is indeed time to free your political mind. I want to invite you to sit back and relax for the next 60 minutes or so as we prepare for our weekly program, our weekly political program. It's Open Forum with me, your host, J. Stan McCauley, as we continue our enlightenment of the of those trapped on the political plantation that we call Hartford, Connecticut. Stick and stay, don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
How do you define evil? Is it the pedophile school administrator or taxation without representation? Is it the gatekeeping community leaders who sell out the very people they are fighting for? Or is evil the politician that puts out lies and takes in cash? However you may classify evil, having to choose the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. Nowhere does this rule apply more than during an election for mayor. Choosing a candidate that is the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. No wonder so many people don't vote. It's time for constituents to flip the script and vote for a mayor you can trust. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I approve this message, and I am asking you for your vote on Tuesday, November the 5th, 2019, in the general election. I, like you, am an independent thinker. So let's sit down and talk about my path to victory and why my plan for Hartford will work. Stop listening to the uninformed evil interests that tell you I can't win. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. It's time to leave the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Time to free your political mind. Tonight on Open Forum, we're going to go over our 5 priorities for the city of Hartford and what I think we need to do in terms of realigning our focus as a city to move Hartford out of a state of economic distress. Okay, so that's what we're going to be going over tonight. I want to remind you that we will be able to take your phone calls. We'll put the phone number up a little bit later on. Those of you who want to ask questions or present things for me to answer or talk about, of course, you can do so on Facebook. All right. And in fact, before we get too far into the weeds here, let's do what we call the Big Share. That's the portion of the program where we share the experience with family, friend, and foe. That way we keep everybody in the know. So let's get started. This is the Big Share. For those of you who like what we do in terms of the McCauley for Mayor campaign, this is your opportunity to do your part and participate by sharing the program. And we really invite you to do so. We encourage you to do so. I have a list of people who I share every program with. It's right there. It's called the Big Share Cheat Sheet. So let's get started real quick. We've already shared to 3 groups. That's Hartford dwellers dwelling in downtown Hartford and dwelling in the north end of Hartford, but we also want to add to that group where they do that at. So where they do that at in the city of Hartford, Connecticut. Let's see here, group share. Where they do that at. Okay. That group was founded by Sean DeBarlow, by the way. Next group we want to share with is Community Block Watches in the Northeast Clay Arsenal community. That's over in the 06120, one of the poorest communities in the state of Connecticut. It's number 12, by the way, out of 200, and I think 57 different communities, or zip codes, if you will. It's way down there. Way down. Okay. In the last capturing of data, it was actually number 1, but now it's number 12. I don't know if that's good or bad. Move up from the worst to like the 12th worst. Okay. Nonetheless, I digress. Let's stay focused and let's get done with the Big Share. Next, we want to share with what? Community Block Watches. That's right. So let's get that done. Then we want to share with Let's see here. Share. We got a couple of gospel groups we want to share with. Let's get those out of the way. That would be Ministries of the Living God. That's number one. And then the second one we want to share with is New England Women and Men of God. That's a Facebook group. And, since all of the candidates are doing their level best to get to all the churches, it's I think that's just so interesting, because they're not normally going to church, but nothing like a good political campaign to get your politicians to church. If only for once a year. It's sort of like Easter on steroids. Some people go to church once a year, that's like Easter time. Others go once every 4 years, and that's at election time. So we want to share with some gospel groups as well. We also want to share with independent thinkers. There's a lot of places that we could share with. We could spend the whole program, the whole 2 hours plus, just sharing the program to all the different groups of people who like to do, what we do. But we have people out there that help us get the word out, so I won't have to share to like every old body. Next group I want to share with, of course, is accesstv.org, Virtual Television Network. That would be the networks group. And of course, we also want to share to a couple of pages. And that first page I want to share with is accesstv.org's Facebook page. I mean, it only stands to reason that we would share the program with our own television network, right? All right, there we go. Post. All right. Also, I want to share with McCauley for Mayor Facebook page, right? I mean, transparency. I'm running for mayor, y'all. Okay, so let's get that share out of the way real quick here. All right, so McCauley for Mayor Facebook page. There we go. Let's see here. Drag this down. There it is, McCauley for Mayor. There we go. Another page we want to share with the Connecticut Black News Network. That's another page, another asset that the network controls, if you will. Because you don't own anything on Facebook. Facebook owns it all. It allows you the privilege of usage. All right. Connecticut Black News Network. That's part of the Access TV Network.com. All right. Happy anniversary to David, by the way. All right. He knows who he is. Okay. Let's continue here with the big share. Also, do not panic. We know a lot of people are looking at our information. We are going to give you details on how to best use this information because, the information is not just for me, it's for everybody. We fully expect to win, but if we don't, at least the information is out there, right? So hold tight. We're going to get through it all tonight so everybody be on the same level playing field. I just feel compelled to say that as a public service. Let's continue the big share here. Next, I want to share with a couple of friends. So we will share with a couple of friends and on their timeline. I generally don't share on friends' timelines unless they've given me permission to do so. So, it's kind of like intrusive sharing on a friend timeline. But if they give me permission, I don't mind doing that. Okay, I'm going to leave it off right there. I think that's enough of enough sharing for tonight. Did I get everybody? I think I did. All right. Let's run through the particulars. The way you can communicate on the program is to present questions in the stream, which is depending upon how you're acquiring the program, what kind of device you're using. You can watch us on a computer. It should probably be to the side, maybe. I don't know. It could be underneath. It could be an overlay. But put your questions and comments in the comment section. Then I will see it over here, okay? And then I will address it. Now, the way this works is I might not actually get to your question or comment for, like a half hour or even an hour. Okay. But I will get to it. I will not go off the air until I address every question. So if there's like 600 questions, I could be here all night. It's not a problem. Okay. Well, that's not true. The maximum run time for a live on Facebook is 4 hours. So I definitely won't be here beyond 2:00. All right. But what we can pack in a 4-hour broadcast, we will. Now, I'm generally not here that long. We've been here as long as 3.5 hours. We've never pushed it to the maximum, but I will get to your question. That's the whole point. Okay. We will put the phone number up and we will take phone calls. Now, I don't believe in doxing. Doxing is when you put people's private information out on the web without their permission or knowledge. So I'm giving you foreknowledge that if you call my number as a prank caller, you are giving me permission to let the rest of the world in on the joke. And we will put your number on the screen so that everyone else can call you like you called in and interrupted everybody else's viewing experience. Now, everybody that you interrupted has an opportunity to call you back. That's been the standing rule for me for over 35 years of broadcasting. I find it a very effective tool. I even have adults come up to me. Some will do it this year because every year I have people come up to me and apologize for a prank call they made, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Okay, so, I'm just laying out those rules, okay? All right. But the best way to participate with your questions, answers, comments, and criticisms is by putting them on Facebook. We broadcast live on a lot of different platforms, and people share the program on platforms that are near and dear to their heart. There is no way for me to engage all of you in the ways that you might try to communicate. So since we are also on YouTube live, you could, in theory, put your comments on the YouTube thread, but I don't look at the YouTube thread. All right. No one does. I'm the only one that looks at it. That way we have one mind, one person looking at all of this stuff. Okay? And that's the way it's going to be. All right. In the future, I plan to do this program after the election is over, and I'm sitting at 550 Main Street. Okay, so every Thursday night at 10 o'clock, I will engage the constituents with a program. So this is the forerunner of that event. All right. I like to do 2 programs a week. They're both done on Thursday. I like to do a program at 12 noon. If we have a guest, that's when we bring the guest on at 12 noon. All right. The evening time is set aside for open forum to talk about things in depth, give you all time to talk back, ask questions of a critical nature. And then 12 o'clock noon is for guests. So if I don't have a guest, I generally don't do a program. Okay. But in the evening, I'll always be here at 10 o'clock. I can do the program from anywhere in the world. So if I'm out of the city, I'll still do the program. All right. So 10 o'clock, that's our standard. We're going to do this once a week and give you opportunity to ask the hard questions. Ask the hard questions. Let me put up real quick the smart card. Where's my smart card? Smart card. There we go. This is the smart card. We hand these out at forums so that you can ask the right questions. All right. And I want you to hold me to the same standard. Okay. So the smart card is what you see on your screen. It's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bounded. Okay. Evaluable and revisable. Now that spells smarter. That's the acronym SMARTER. So when you ask questions of me or any other candidate running for office, make sure that the questions you ask are first specific. Exactly what are they talking about when they are talking about whatever it is they're talking about? Okay? So are they being specific? Are they being specific and purposeful in their dialogue? And are they being specific and purposeful in answering your question? 2, is it measurable? How can you measure it? A lot of times political type people will talk about stuff, but there's no way to measure it. In theory, I am in favor of that, and I think we should start to see some evidence of the program. I'd say within the next, within the next 5 years. How do you measure that? You can't. So pin them down. Ask them, what can I see in 6 months? If 6 months is too soon, what can I see inside of a year? Okay? Make them present it in a way that is measurable. Attainable. How will you attain? I need a little more house volume. I can't tell if I'm on. Okay. How is it attainable? How will they get it done? Is it relevant? Does it have anything to do with you? Does it have anything to do with you? Okay. No, maybe it's not about you. Maybe it's shoring up the levee system here in Hartford. Okay. And that may not have anything to do with you directly, but, is it relevant? Well, considering if the dikes fail and the city gets flooded, yeah, it'd be really relevant. So is it relevant? In what way is what you're talking about relevant to you or the question? In what way is their answer to you relevant? When do you see it happening? All right. A lot like measurable. Okay. When do you see it happening? Time bounded. All right. Time bounded. So that you can, chart the success. These are how we call it the SMART card. And so that you have some tools during these forums and debates. Next, is it evaluable? Can you check to see if it is working? Then, last but not least, revisable. Can you change it, or can you make changes to the plan if the plan is somehow not working? So if the plan isn't working, can you make changes to the plan? And that's a great place to dive into what we're going to talk about here, which of course is my 5-point priority. All right, so we have another card. Let's put that one up real quick, and then we'll be on our way. All right, we're going to dive into this. This is the 5 points, 5-point plan. All right, priority number 1, education and youth development. Number 2, communications. Number 3, mission-driven collaboration, working outside of our silos. Number 4, public safety and quality of life. And number 5, economic development and community development. Or one could package it in terms of economic and community development. This is my 5-point plan to realign Hartford's focus. All right. And as it says on the card, what Hartford needs is an administration that can be trusted, underline that, trusted to operate as one Hartford and one people. This means the creation and maintenance of a participatory, transparent, and accountable system of municipal care, custody, and responsibility. I believe that the following citywide priority realignment is needed to bring Hartford out of economic distress. All right? Out of economic distress. So we're going to get into this tonight in detail. This is not going to be entertaining. It's going to be hopefully educational. At least it'll be educational in terms of what it is I would like to present as, as an administration for our city, Hartford, Connecticut. Okay? So you can go to our website at McCauleyformayor.com, click on the 5-point plan, and it'll take you to what I'm getting ready to read here. All right. So this is my 5-point plan, right here. I'm going to read it to you. Okay. So that we can go over the details. All right. And then what I'm going to do is, like we did last week's program with the 11 questions from the current, is this will be chopped up so that each priority, you'll be able, when you click on it to watch the video, it'll start right where we are starting to talk about the priority. Okay. So priority 1, if you go click on priority 2, you'll be able to watch the detailed breakout of what's written. Okay. The 11 questions from the current, we will post the final version that's submitted to the current on June the 6th or June the 5th, probably. We'll do it the same day, June the 5th. I don't know when the current's going to publish it, whether they'll do them all at once, whether they'll do one candidate at a time, sometime between now and the election day, whatever the case is. But we're going to put our answers up as soon as the deadline comes. All right, last week we went over each question. I gave you my initial thoughts, and what we will do then is we've prepared, to send into the current a detailed, succinct answer to the question without all of the fluff and all that other kind of stuff. So initial thoughts. And I like to do it that way, and I'm as much as I can and as much as is practical. That's how I would do it during the administration, because one of the hallmarks, one of the things that we are really, really pushing in answering a lot of what I have heard over the last 30 some odd years of covering and reporting on what's going on in the city of Hartford. I hear people, this cry for transparency and accountability. And every time people run for city council, or they run for mayor, or they run for, state rep or state senate or congressional offices, or our federal level senators, they always talk about transparency. But then as soon as they get elected, there isn't any. There's absolutely zero transparency. Transparency really allows you to participate and brings you in so that you know what's happening. All right. Accountability requires consequence. If there's no consequence, then there is no accountability. All right. Now, I guess you could have a long, drawn out debate as to what the consequence should be, who's responsible for implementing the consequence. But if there is no consequence, there is no accountability. Okay. So I believe in transparency. I believe in accountability. I believe in consequence. All right. So one of the ways we go about establishing transparency is with this program. All right. As a forerunner to what it would be like once I get elected. Transparency. So I'll give you my initial thoughts, and then we will release the official statement. So it'll be like that. Initial thought, official statement. Initial thought, official statement. That way, when we do the initial thought, we bring you into the process. We told you in front. I'm being honest and as open and transparent as I can in the delivery of the initial thoughts. Then we bring you the official statement. Now, we've been modeling this for almost a year, okay? Back in January when we made our announcement in November, okay? And before November, we started, doing the program specifically around political issues, all right? But we told you in November that we were going to have a participatory model in presenting our priorities. We opened up the door to allow multitudes of people to make contributions to what would be our final product. We had a virtual town hall that I would chalk it up was a miserable failure. All right, it was unsuccessful, and so we didn't have another one. We had the first one, and like nobody participated. So it became clear that that would just be a long 4-hour talk session with no participation. So we went a different route. We had conversations with all kinds of people and listened to all kinds of people. A lot of one-on-ones with very interested people. We had sessions where people came, they sat down, they talked, they exchanged ideas, and we put out the conversations on Facebook as well as YouTube, as well as our own television network, accesstv.org, and we got feedback from people. And we synthesized, and what you have now on our website is that synthesized version. All right. It was originally set up as 5 priorities with 5 goals, and each goal had 5 objectives. Okay. And so now what we have is the finished product, and that's what's posted on the website now. So if you went and looked at the website now, it would be different than what it was when we first launched it, because when you have a participatory style of governance, as people participate, there's an evolution. And with evolution, things evolve for the better, and best practices become part of it, and you move forward. So there's always progress. So things aren't as they were, they're better than they were when we started. That should always be the outcome if you're going to have a forward move. All right, there's nothing worse than stagnation. Well, that's not true. I guess decline would be worse than just holding level, okay? But we want to move forward. All right, now, you could actually go back. This is for all those people that like to get deep in the weeds and the technocrats. And the people that complain the most are that kind of individual. The people that don't complain could care less. Whatever happens, happens. But there are people who actually care, and they will hold you accountable. So we document things, and our storehouse of record is the electronic media. What we said is what we said, and it's there. We didn't delete anything. All right. If we made a mistake, the mistake is there. So you could actually go back and watch these programs to the very first one when we presented the 5-point plan and compare it to what we're about to present to you now. And you will see the evolution. So there's a perfect example where we have modeled the initial thought relative to the official platform statement, or the official statement, if you will. There's the initial thought and then the official statement. And every time I do something, I would like to do it in that fashion where it is practical. Okay, so initial thought, official statement. Initial thought, official statement. All right. So these are the official statements. This is where my administration is. This is the platform we're standing on. This is what we are going to run on. This is what we're pushing. When I get in, this will be what we try to make happen. All right. This is not a dictatorship. There are plenty of mechanisms. There are plenty of ways for people to contribute. There's the legislative side, which is at City Hall. There are the different departments where there are experts that we hire to implement things. But in terms of what the administration wants to see, what the McCauley administration wants to push forward in terms of 5-point realignment, it's right here. It's right here. And you can check it out on your website at McCauleyforMayor.com. When you get there, click on 5-point plan, and it's all right there. Okay, so tonight, my mission is to go over all of these, okay, one priority at a time. All right, so I'm going to go over priority number 1. Then I will take your questions, comments, and criticisms. All right, we will open up the phone line. Okay, so you could put all your comments, which will be good. All right, but the phone line is how we're going to take your comments on the priorities. At the end of the show, I will go over every question and address every question. Okay, bear in mind that we have people that tune in and tune out of this broadcast, anywhere from when we first come on to where we go off. The broadcasts are designed for long-form talk format with an understanding that people tune in and tune out. Okay, so, we got to be here until at least midnight. And we understand some people might not even join us until 10 minutes of midnight. And that's what they'll watch, and then they may watch it from the beginning later on. Most of the people that watch this program watch it on demand when it is convenient for them. But this is when we do the program. We record the program live. And so therefore I give you this long-winded introduction every week because there's always new people joining us for the first time. And of course, you can always fast forward to the part where I'm not talking anymore. That's the beauty of watching it on demand. Okay? So priority number 1. Education and youth development. Now, I'm going to read what's here so that we get it right. Okay? I'm not going to, do this improvisational because we are beyond the initial phase. This is about to be the policy, if you will. It's not the law because the executive branch doesn't create law. This is the policy. This is the administration's policy as it pertains to education and youth development. And to the degree that we can, this is what we would like to see happen. All right. I do not believe that any of this collides with state statute, with anything that we have in terms of legislation from the municipal side. But obviously, if that is the case, what the administration wants will have to be subordinate to what the state law says in statute, as well as with what we have on our books here in the city in terms of ordinances. Okay. All right. Priority 1, education and youth development. I believe that education can be transformative and that it can be transformed to meet the needs of every child in our city. It is the moral imperative of our time and a true pathway out of poverty. I was a public school student and benefited from a school environment that allowed me to develop as an engaged learner. Working over the past 20 years with Hartford parents and community organizations, I remember how schools served as community anchors and a source of pride in the neighborhoods. I'm sure many of you remember that as well. The potential for creating highly effective schools is there, but it is not realized because we don't have the leadership to bring about the kind of connections that are necessary to bring about the change to create the kind of schools we need. By neglecting our schools through the absence of both a well-articulated one city, one plan, vision for education and our young people, and a political commitment to implement that plan, The current administration has done great harm to our city. As mayor, I will address the following. Okay, 1. Appoint city department heads. Now, this is somewhat controversial. It's a little controversial. There are many who believe that the mayor should not be appointing anybody to the board. I have friends that believe that. Okay. I have friends that believe that the mayor should appoint everybody to the board. Currently, per charter, all right, because what I believe, what my friends believe is irrelevant. What does the charter say? So the city charter calls for an election of 4, all right, people to sit on the board. 4. And the mayor, the chief elected official of the city, appoints 5 members, making the board 9 members. So the mayor gets to appoint 5 people. So when you vote for your mayor, understand and know that he or she has the responsibility per the city charter to appoint 5 people. Just like when you vote for city council, you want to keep in mind that everybody that you vote for could wind up being the mayor, because one member of city council will wind up being the president of the council, and the president of the council assumes the role of mayor in the absence of the mayor. So if something were to happen to the mayor, or the mayor were to resign, the council president automatically becomes the mayor. So when you vote for your city council people, you need to keep in mind that the city council people you vote for could very well become your mayor. All right. So I say all that to say it is up to you, the constituents, to be educated on the facts, to know what your elected officials stand for, and to vote for people beyond the idea or notion of popularity contests. You know, you're not voting for prom king, okay, and queen. You're voting for someone who has the capacity to move agendas forward on behalf of everybody in the city of Hartford, all of the stakeholders, okay, and has a vision and the capacity to unite and lead the city forward. So, obviously, when you vote for mayor, that's kind of like a given, okay? But when you vote for your city council, remember, any member of city council could, in theory, become the council president. A fact. Someone will. And that person might wind up being mayor under the conditions that I presented to you, all right? Because that's what the charter calls for, all right? So according to the charter, the mayor can appoint 5 people to the Board of Education. So I would appoint people who work for the city, department heads. Now, I know that sounds kind of, kind of controversial, but that's what I would do. Okay, that's what I would do. I'm looking for something in particular. I don't think it's here. Oh, here it is. Yep. Okay. It's my list of what department heads I would appoint, because it's not on this. And I don't think it's on the website. I don't know whether I'll put it on the website, but I'm going to tell you what they are. All right. So, appoint city department heads to serve on the Board of Education, to embed collaboration and bust silos. I'm a silo buster. I don't like people working in silos. little kingdoms, little fiefdoms. All right. And if you read my 5-point plan, you'll see as a holistic document that's borne out. Okay. I do not find that to be beneficial to the whole. People working in their own little enclaves. All right. Appoint city department heads to also serve on the Board of Education, to embed collaboration and bust silos, schools and communities within which they reside are inextricably linked. Inexorably linked. There we go. City planning and schools are siloed even though they have shared visions and goals. Planning for the city and planning for the schools must be addressed in a holistic way. All right? Half of the city's budget goes to our education department in running the school. All right? We pay for it. You know, the state pays for it. But at the end of the day, it's part of Hartford budget. Okay? So I would appoint these 5 people to be on the board. The finance department, director of finance, right? So the directors of these following departments I would appoint to the board as a condition of employment, by the way. See, these people work at the pleasure of the mayor. So as part of the condition of employment, I can say that now so that everybody knows when I get there, this is part of this. I ran on this. So I get elected. This is part of it. All right. Finance director. The reason should be obvious. Community engagement. The reason should be obvious. Metro Hartford Information or Innovation Services. Once again, the reason should be obvious. Okay. Procurement Services Unit. That's the people who buy stuff and procure, you know. Once again, I think that's obvious. And then lastly, the Department of Family, Children, Youth, and Recreation. Now, that department head right now currently serves on the Board of Education. But I would have all five of my people I would direct toward the because, you know, much of what the board does is set policy and approve spending. Okay. And there's a political firewall between, you know, the Board of Education and the municipality. But I think we have to be very practical. And a lot of times you have these things that are established in an effort to create opportunities, in my never to be humble opinion, for corruption. And I don't mean corrupt in the sense of criminal corruption. I mean like corruption like your computer gets corrupted. There's no criminal intent when your computer becomes corrupted. It doesn't function the way it's supposed to. And so when you have things like Robert's Rules of Order, there are all kinds of sentinels, if you will, set up in every system to make sure that things change very slowly or don't change at all. And if you can find ways to manipulate them, you can find ways to corrupt the system. So as the chief elected official of the city, who's responsible for everything, including education, ultimately, I want to make sure that the education department is doing a stellar job in educating the city's children. To me, they have no other reason to be. They're not there to make sure teachers have a pension plan. They're not there to make sure that people have good standard of living. They're there to teach our children. And in exchange for teaching our children, we pay them handsomely so that they can do those things. If our kids are all graduating ready to go to Yale and Harvard and they can't get in because all the seats are taken, I don't mind paying you whatever you want. The treadeth, muzzle not the mouth of the ox that treadeth the corn, right? If you do the work, there's no reason why you shouldn't get paid. But I'm not paying you for delivery of a faulty product. And as long as kids can't read, that's a faulty product. I don't care that they come from trauma-induced households. I don't care that they are gripped by poverty. I've seen education in South Africa where the poverty here looks like a standard of living that, that people all over the planet dream about. They wish it was that good. Okay. Now, if these countries can field student bodies that are superior to what we're doing here in Hartford, we got a problem. You deal the hand that you've been dealt. And so if our children have challenges, we hired you to be able to teach them with an understanding that they have challenges. The challenges aren't an excuse. The challenges are part of the condition necessary to instruct, teach, so that they can prosper. That's what I want from my teaching staff. If that's what we have, I'm good. If we don't have it, how can we get it in short order? And I don't mean the next 15 years through training and seminars to get them up to speed. I'm very old-fashioned when it comes to being paid for work. Okay? We pay you to do a job. If I have to train you to be able to do the job I hired you to do, then we automatically from Jump Street have a problem. I'm hiring you because you are an expert in your field. Now, I believe wholeheartedly in making sure that people have the tools they need for the job. And as they grow on the job, training is obviously necessary. So we should always provide the means by which the staff can grow. And part of that is training. But I'm not going to train you to be able to cope with, deal with, and appreciate children that come from an urban environment. If you can't handle that, then you are in the wrong profession. Period. That's my stand now. It has been my stand as long as I can remember talking about teachers and education in a public forum, which has been for more than 30 years. Okay. If you get if you are paid to teach, teach. And there's no excuse. If you can't teach the kids, quit. We'll find someone else who can. So I'm real old-fashioned on that. All right. That's why I'm not superintendent of schools. All right. Or on the board of education. All right. I tend to be very simple-minded when it comes to product in exchange for a reasonable fee. We pay you. You do a work. It's very, 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 very simple. We pay you. You do the work. Everybody that's a teacher is not cut out to teach. Everyone that wants to fly an F-16 can't. Everybody that wants to fly a F-22 Raptor, they can't. Some people can't fly helicopters. Some people won't be Navy SEALs. Some Navy SEALs aren't cut out to go and disarm a downed submarine with 16 nuclear warheads. Everyone can't do the job that they may like to do. But someone's got to do it, and the people that do it should be trained and proficient and be able to deliver. That's the kind of attitude we have as it relates to teachers. Okay, because we're teaching kids. We're not disarming nuclear missiles, right? Okay. I would appoint a chief education, I would appoint an education chief to execute on an education agenda for the city by forming strategic public-private sector partnerships and fostering coordination between youth services or servicing organizations. All right. Be the connector across all facets of education, youth development programs, parents, residents, businesses, and community leaders or community leader involvement. The the School Governance Council kind of has a component to that, if you will. But I would have I would appoint an education chief specifically for that purpose, kind of like my education czar, if you will, kind of. Expand support to teachers. Like I said, you can't expect teachers to do the job if they are not supported. You can't expect any employee to do jobs if they are not supported. All right. Our current system is leaving everyone frustrated and burned out. That's teachers, students, parents, custodial staff, everybody. Everybody's burned out because the system has failed, in my opinion, and it is failing at an alarming rate. And so we need to re-energize, reinvigorate, whatever the case is. All right. So I would expand support to teachers. Let's start a new conversation by working with the union and saying, in this city, your teachers are outgunned. And I mean that metaphorically. All right. When you signed up to teach, you didn't sign up for this. You expected a lot more support. You can't extinguish a 5-alarm fire with a fire extinguisher. I'll work with you and with the administration and with the private sector to rally the resources you need to get additional training and support so that you can be the most effective teachers in the classroom. All right? I'm not contradicting myself. I expect there to be a modicum of preparedness to be able to teach in an urban environment from teachers who sign up to teach in an urban environment. I don't expect you to get there and then the next week you talk about you can't handle it. All right. Having said that, a lot of teachers just don't have the support that they need to be able to do the job. Promote full implementation of student success plans. Planning to graduate is not enough. Our students must graduate with a plan, and that plan must be created with the help of as many caring adults from the residential and private sectors as possible. Next, call for dream directors in every school. All right. Exposure and aspiration are key. Dream directors will spark the curiosity, purpose, and imagination to uncover our students' limitless potential. So think of the dream director more like a Tony Robbins kind of a personality, if you will. Some might say, well, shouldn't a teacher do that, or shouldn't a guidance counselor do that? Well, the teacher has a specific job, and so does the guidance counselor. But the dream director is a youth development expert. Okay, their expertise is youth development. Okay. So dream director partner with students, principal, teacher, and other key staff. Train students to become leaders, to engage their peers, and shift the culture of the school. Now, when I went to school in Pennsylvania, public school, Penridge Senior High School, Percy, PA. There was 425, I believe, in my graduating class. I was the singular minority in my graduating class. I mean, I was the only minority. I was the only minority in my graduating class of 425. All right. When I got married, all right, when did I get married? 1984. When I got married in 1984, here in Connecticut at Metropolitan AME Zion Church, where the pastor was Alfred White, and he performed the wedding. The principal of my school drove from Pennsylvania to Hartford for my wedding. I was a peer counselor. And when I first came to Hartford, when I was 19 years old, I came to Hartford. I graduated. I was 17. Went to school for aviation maintenance. Came here to work at Pratt and Whitney. Kind of like drafted by Pratt to come up here and work at Pratt and Whitney on the assembly floor on the F-100 engine program. So I was quality assurance inspector. And when I got married in 1984, I graduated in 1979. No, I graduated in 1977, excuse me. I graduated from aviation, from School of Aviation Maintenance Technology in 1979. I got married in 1984. My high school principal came to my wedding. That's the relationship I had with my principal. Okay. So the principal of the school put together peer counselors, and he thought that I would make a good peer counselor. And what the peer counselors did was they act, like if a student got in trouble, they had an option to, one, discipline. They could go to talk to the guidance counselor, or they can opt for peer counseling. And the peer counselors would sit, and there was a whole peer counseling little classes that we had. I think it was like 2 or 3 of them. And then we became peer counselors. They could come and talk to a peer counselor to find resolution to whatever the issue or the problem was. Okay. So the peer counselors created a culture within the school. Now, the dream director would inspire students to kind of be like peer counselors, if you will. Find the leaders within the school, within the youth. Develop those youth so that they can become the role model and example within the school culture to change that culture around. All right. So they would train students, become leaders, to engage their peers and shift the culture of the school. So that's what the dream directors in every school would be doing. That I think is important. All right. Address remediation. Our kids are behind. And we must provide additional support to catch them up. As our community, we must come together, or as a community, we must come together and summon an army of academic resources to wrap around our kids. All right, so if you have kids graduating from school, right, and they can't get in and function at Capital Community College, we got a problem. I mean, we just have a problem. All right, so kids can't kids can't read. You go to community college and you have to have a remedial course so that you can read. That don't make sense. Something's wrong. All right. First, there's a waste of all that time that you were actually at school to learn how to be prepared so that when you went to college or community college or wherever it is you're going to go, that you can function there, right? That's to me, that's tragic. Tragic. All right. So we must come together and summon an army of academic resources to wrap around our kids. We need to address remediation. Youth development as a city priority. Developing our young people is not a school issue alone. These are issues for the community. They are citizens of our city. How many know that the youth of Hartford are citizens of our city? They are constituents. of our city, right? They are citizens of our city. They are with us before school, after school, nights, weekends, and all summer. We are largely overlooking the insights and potential of our city's most important constituents, our future leaders, right? We can create civically engaged adults starting now by inviting young people to the urban planning and policy making table. Why not engage young people now? Wouldn't that make sense? All right? If they are part of the civic process where they're learning how this whole thing works, if people say, well, we need to hear from young people, well, then how come we're not inviting them to the policies of making opportunities? All right? The Board of Education does have like a student senate throughout the school system. And 2 members of the student senate sit as, student members of the Board of Education. 2 of them. All right, that's a good example. All right. But we need to do that. We need to do that a lot more. All right. Kickstart school governance councils. Fully support functioning SGCs, the school governance councils, in every school as a primary means of engaging community and parent involvement. All right. There are school governance councils, but to the degree that they are all functioning, they're not. But they could be if there was the political will to make that happen. 860-944-9797. Any questions or comments on our first priority? All right. We'll give you a hot second or two to call with any questions that you might have. We're gonna address all of the questions on the feed at the end of the program. But if you have any questions specifically about what we just went over, we will take them now. And then we will move on to our second priority, which is communications. It won't be as lengthy as the one I just went over, all right, which is education. All right, communication priority number 2 is what we will go over next. 860-944-9797. Want to make sure that we give our live audience opportunity to weigh in on anything that we discussed. Okay, I'll give you another couple of minutes, and then we will take a short break and come back with priority number 2. Okay, you can find all of this, by the way, at McCauleyformayor.com, and you go to the 5-point plan, and you will see our priorities for realigning Hartford. Stick and stay, my friends. We will be right back with priority number 2. Independent thinkers are Puerto Rican, Mexican, Peruvian, Indian, Bosnian, Italian, Irish, Jamaican, African American, European, straight, gay, Nigerian, transgender, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, short, tall, skinny, rich, poor, happy, sad. Some of us hold a PhD and others a GED. And though we may be Democrats, Republicans, or members of the Working Families Party, we all have escaped the plantation of party politics and become independent thinkers because we as individuals are more than a party. You see, independent thinkers come from all walks of life, and the one thing we all have in common is that we love, live, laugh, and learn in the city of Hartford. We are the constituents, and the government of Hartford belongs to us. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I'm an independent thinker, and I approve this message because it's time to stop towing the party line and vote for a candidate you can trust. I'm asking you for your vote November the 5th, 2019 in the general election for mayor of the city of Hartford. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. You too can escape the plantation of party politics if you have the courage to free your political mind. Escape the plantation of party politics and free your political mind. Want to remind everybody that the election is November the 5th. Make the 5th of November a day to remember, right? In the general election, you will find my name on the ballot. Make sure you vote for me. All right? And we will move the city forward. All right? For more information, of course, you can go to McCauleyformayor.com. And if you would like to support what we're doing, on your screen, you can see the address. Support.McCauleyformayor.com. Don't give more than $1,000. Okay. Let's continue. Where else can you have this much fun? Freeing your political mind. All right. Priority number 2 in our 5 points to realign the city's focus so that ultimately we can pull the city out of how shall we say this? Pull the city out of economic distress. That's our goal, to move Hartford out of economic distress. Now, these goals, by the way, they are these priorities, they're not like priority 1, then once we get that done, we move to priority 2, and then we get that done, we move to priority 3. They are concurrent. They all operate at the same time. So it's a holistic approach to these issues. All right, and it's citywide, so it's not just like City Hall. It's everybody. Citywide, we make a one city effort on all these things, so everybody's on board. Corporate, big business, small business, the entrepreneur, the panhandler, right? Everybody, the bus driver, the taxi cab driver, the Uber driver, okay, the librarian. All right, the teacher, the janitor, the mayor, city council, everybody, Parks and Rec, everyone in the city is aligned with these plans. The Chamber of Commerce, everyone. Our number 1 and first priority are our children and education. The second is communication. All right. Third is working outside of silos, mission-driven, intentional, working outside of silos. And then, of course, we have public safety and quality of life. And then 5th, economic and community development. Those are the 5 priorities. My reprioritization is not meant to be an end all to be all. This is 6 pages. 6 pages, not front and back, just 6 pages. And this one here, as you can see, is only like half a page on communication. All right. Clearly, the whole communication strategy can't fit on half a page. Will it be holes in what I tell you here? Yeah, I could find holes as well as anyone else. But these are the priorities. Think of this as the executive summary of the plan. Think of this as the recipe. It doesn't tell you how much of what you need. But this is the plan, and trust me when I tell you, the plan will work. Okay, the plan will work. If you'd like to know more detail about plan and implementation and all that, then we have to get together and we'll sit down and we'll have coffee. I have that conversation with anybody. I will have that conversation with anybody, anywhere, any time of day or night. 5 o'clock in the morning, if that's your happy time when your mind is free and you can contemplate stuff, I'll meet with you at 5 a.m. It doesn't matter to me where. We can meet in front of the old State House, or we can meet at a little place that serves good coffee. I don't care where it is. Anytime, any place, I'll sit down and have coffee with somebody. If you want to know, I'll sit down. I'll explain it to you. I'm not scared of someone stealing my plan. I should hope that you try to steal it and work with it. Make it happen. All right? Because if everyone stole the plan, there still wouldn't be enough people making, an effort to get this done. We need all the help we can get. So anybody that wants to contribute in any way is necessary. Because Hartford is a city in economic distress. I don't know if you fully understand what that means. All right? We're like at the bottom of the barrel. That's it. We qualify for every aid imaginable because we're in economic distress. So there's nowhere for Hartford to go but up. There's nowhere for it to go but up. So if you see an area in this where there is weakness, then I don't need you to point out the weakness. I need you to show me what needs to be done to fix it and make it work better. So the time for what's wrong with it is over. We held that open for a year to get people to contribute. This is another form of modeling. Because in the McCauley administration, in the city of Hartford, when we work for a year on a process to move something forward, we will not entertain ideas from the peanut gallery as to what we need to do. And no one invited me or told me about this. I've got 30 years of experience on seeing that happen in the city of Hartford. And nothing is more disruptive to forward movement than people who stop and block, who are experts at stopping forward movement. They have become more than proficient. They are practitioners of it. I could give you names of people in all kinds of sectors who are proficient at stopping stuff from moving forward, undermining whole things. That will not happen in the McCauley administration. I'm here to tell you, it won't happen. It won't happen. Because I have the political will to tell you to sit down and politely shut up. See, most political folk won't do that because they're not leaders. That's what leadership is. Okay. That's what leadership is. When you've given everybody an opportunity to weigh in on a project, to move something forward, and the Johnny-come-lately comes along, it's not leadership to entertain them and allow them to reinvent the wheel again. That's dereliction of duty. All right, well, we don't want to offend anybody. That's the problem. Too many people. That's why you don't have any leaders, because nobody wants to be offended by moving something forward. Sometimes people are going to be offended by the clothes you wear is offensive to some. And all right. So if they're going to be offended by you, and chances are there will be people who are offended by, I know there's lots of people offended by me, such is life. Okay, but I'd rather them be offended at the genuine real me than to pretend me that isn't like who I am, all right? Be you, have backbone and courage, stand for something, and those that are offended, at the very least, they'll respect you, right? But have the tenacity, the stick-to-itiveness, the vision, and the leadership to move something forward for the common good and stop worrying about everybody liking you. Everyone's not going to like you. That's just life. Okay, and that's part of the danger when you elect people who are winning a popularity contest. Because if the rationale for running is because you are popular or want to be popular, then you're hiring a disaster from the jump. Because the same popularity that got them there is the same popularity they want to stay there. Always remember, people are more likely to be in the future, who they are now and who they were in the past. They're not likely to change and become they're not going to become a rose after years of being poison ivy. So why are you expecting them to somehow become a rose? It's not going to happen. All right. So know what you're getting. Do the research. All right. Or as I like to say, ask all the candidates to for those of you for the ebonically challenged, ask all candidates to see their plan. For those fluent in the ebonic tongue, ask to see their plan. Priority number 2, communications. One of my favorite things. City of Hartford driven communications must be understood as part of the larger work of driving change in Hartford. Communications is key to driving change in Hartford. We believe communications will be one of the most critical factors in making Hartford's growth successful by bringing the community along in all city efforts and building trust. Our digital world is inundated with information, and constituents deserve and need reliable sources of information about their city government. Our goal is to translate city and department happenings in ways that speak to distinct constituencies and provide clear avenues for partnership in the work. I don't think it could be any clearer than that. All right. I, at great personal expense, have spent not a lifetime, because I'll be 60 years old in January, but I have spent at least half of that lifetime helping people communicate what's going on in the city of Hartford. I will be that same person that helps people get their message out and communicates going forward. I am a free speech advocate, and I believe that people ought to have an opportunity to speak freely and communicate what it is that they genuinely believe. Only when we know what people believe can we begin to get along with one another. All right, you don't have to champion what they believe, but you darn well better respect what they believe. Okay? They have just as much a right to champion what they think as you do. And there's nothing that makes you more right than them, because everybody has an opinion. So how can we all get along and communicate how we feel? That's always been that's been the foundation of what drives me in terms of delivering opportunities for people to speak. Whether I agree with them or not is irrelevant. I genuinely want to hear what people think so that I can appreciate them for who they are. Okay? The city has to have that same attitude in communicating what it is doing with people whom they are obligated to in terms of giving them information and providing transparency and accountability. Now, you cannot have transparency and accountability without a communications platform or means. All right. So as mayor, I will address the following. I will establish systems that support open and consistent communications. I'll institute, stronger systems that raise the level of importance of communication between city departments, that force more coordination and consistency of services. So that means the departments will communicate with one another. That's not been something that has happened in the past in Hartford's history. All right. And to some degree, there's a lot more communication between departments than there was many years ago, but there isn't nearly enough. All right. So the departments must communicate. Right. There needs to be interagency communication inside our departments. All right. So Children and family ought to know what's going on with recreation. Well, they're part of recreation, but like the finance department should know what's going on at the school board, what's going on so everybody needs to, it's one organization. So it needs to operate as one organization. There's not one department in a competition with another. All departments work in concert with one another to provide services for the constituents that we are all here to serve. That's our purpose for being, to serve the constituents. The constituents aren't here to serve government. Government belongs to the people. All right? Connecting with neighboring municipalities as well as state, federal government entities will be prioritized. Okay? So is Hartford communicating with Bloomfield? Is Hartford communicating with East Hartford, West Hartford, Rocky Hill, Wethersfield, New Britain? Or are we in and of ourselves a silo? Right? Are we growing and fostering our relationships with the towns around us? Something we need to do now more than ever, considering where we are in terms of the surrounding suburban towns bailing us out. All right, because they're bailing us out $250 million a year. So we need to communicate with our surrounding legislative districts. Advance a culture of open, honest communications. Weekly live broadcasts, open forum question and answer with the mayor. That's what we're doing right now. All right, although this is more of a monologue than a dialogue, but that's to be expected. I would imagine this will change dramatically once I become mayor, because then people will have questions. I'll be the mayor, and all kinds of folk will want to call and ask questions. Now people kind of, do they ask? Do they not ask? Do they watch? Do they call in? Do they put a like? There's a lot of people that would like the program, but in Hartford, every decision is a political decision, and folk liking could get them in deep political. You could put yourself at political risk just for liking this program. It will be interpreted as support, tacit support, mild. Like Alexa, what is the definition of tacit?
The adjective tacit is usually defined as understood without being openly expressed, implied. For more, ask me to give you more definitions for tacit.
Thank you. Okay, tacit support, kind of implied. The like is kind of support without saying support. So if somebody says something, then you say, oh, no. I like the way there was a comment that somebody said that I liked. I wasn't liking Stan. Tacit. All right. Utilize deeper community pathways and partners as part of our communications priority to inform people, right? So to inform the community of key initiatives and issues, utilize various methods of disseminating information using neighborhood newspapers, public access television, channels 95 and 96, radio like WQTQ, YouTube, social media, text messaging, and emails. We live in a digital society. How are people getting their information? Social media is the number one way that people communicate. The power of social media is greater than that of the mainstream media. Now, there's a lot of people who still think that mainstream media, if it isn't happening in mainstream media, it isn't happening. Yet the President of the United States puts out a tweet, and everybody knows. Okay? The rules have changed. The rules have changed. No longer are you obligated to use the mainstream media, where the power of the media is not in what they print, but in quite the contrary. What they don't print is the power of big media. Okay? And their ability to control the narrative. it should always be the job of the fourth estate to hold accountable government. But government has an obligation to communicate truth, honesty to the constituent. And while we're on that subject of truth and honesty, let me address something. Because there's a lot of people who would put forth the notion of separation of church and state. Therefore, anyone who is quote unquote associated in any way with organized religion or has a religious point of view is somehow disqualified from government because I guess, I don't know what it is that they're afraid of. So I ask you this. Would you let a child molester watch your children? I want you to personalize this. You have a household and you have children and you're looking for someone to watch your children. Would you let a child molester watch them? Would you let a thief do your books? Would you let someone who was planning to embezzle money from a senior be the executor of financial accounts? No, you would want the most upstanding, moral people to be in charge of your personal finances and to watch your loved ones. Right? Yet when it comes to government, those are the exact people no one wants around. Then people wonder why there's corruption, thievery, lying, cheating, stealing, and all kinds of vice in corrupt government. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot expect government to be moral, upright, and do proper things when by default anyone who even has a hint of such is somehow disqualified from the offering. So when people tell me things like, well, Stan is a minister and we're supposed to separate church. Look, the problem isn't me. The problem is you. Right? It's always that's always the problem. Because somehow or another, I am convicting people of their own issues. See, I don't have issues with you. You have issues with me. So I'm not the problem. I don't have the capacity to send anybody to hell. I don't have the capacity to pass judgment on anybody. I'm enough keeping my own life in check. So it isn't me. There's been no demonstration whatsoever on my part that I impose on people some sort of moral standard in the rules. It's not evident anywhere. But people are deathly afraid of somehow somebody using the power of government to impose on other folks a moral standard which they find offensive because it is convicting to their sensibilities and lifestyles. Whatever that lifestyle may be. Okay? That ain't on me, that's on you. The fact of the matter is government is imposing all kinds of things on you now. It's going to impose on you tolls so that you have to pay more in taxes, even though what they really want to do is pass a toll so that they can borrow against future revenue to come into the tolls to pay for things now. If that isn't scheming, nothing is. This is why we refer to politicians as putting out lies, taking in cash. Now, if that's the kind of government you want, then that's the kind of government that you have to vote for. I don't want to hear nobody complaining about Lamont or anybody else under the sun. because they didn't get there on their own. Governor Lamont can only cast one vote. Donald Trump can only cast one vote. Hillary Clinton can only cast one vote. These people got into office because folk voted them in. Many people voted these people in without doing any homework because it was a popularity contest. It's like a sport. As long as the Yankees win, folk don't care. As long as the Red Sox win, folk don't care. Government is not a team sport. Government is you. They are your representatives. It is not a cheerleading session. They're accountable to you. You lose control of your government, then you just become a serf on the land. That's all you become. Government is participatory by you, the owner of it, by you, the constituent, by you, the citizen. It is this, what I'm talking about right now is the singular, most dangerous message that you can talk about as anyone aspiring to do anything in politics, is to talk about empowering constituencies and people. Political folk die for stuff like that. So ask yourself, are you worth that? Are you, the constituent, worth having leadership that actually gives a damn about you? And what they're willing to put on the line to represent you. Because most aren't concerned about you at all. And it's demonstrated in every piece of legislation they pass. Anybody that's elected to office right now, in any capacity, that's concerned about the people in the city of Hartford, Connecticut. Anybody running for any office in the city of Hartford, Connecticut, one of the poorest cities on the planet, fourth poorest city of a city its size in the United States, the 12th poorest zip code in the state of Connecticut out of 120 out of 250 some odd zip codes, I think, something like that. Okay, zip code, not area code, zip code. We got 5 zip codes right here in Hartford. Every zip code in Hartford is in economic distress with the exception of 06103, which is downtown. It is considered comfortable. Everyone else is in economic distress. 06120, 06114, 06105, 06106, 06112. The 06103 is the only one that is not in economic distress. And out of those that are in distress, all of them are in the 90 percentile distress. Anybody running for office right now, anybody running for office that has not touched upon the issue of redlining doesn't care about you. There's no way you can live in Hartford affected by a government sanctioned slavery project, such as has been done through economically decapitating communities through redlining, and has not done anything to address the issue. And they talk about they want to run for office to be leadership for you. If you have property in the west end of Hartford, your property is in a city that's been redlined for all intents and purposes economically because your zip code is in distress. You see, it doesn't just affect the 06120 anymore. Now it affects the whole city except for downtown where you have these tall buildings. And people with real money don't live in Hartford. You got some semi-old money still around in Hartford. Okay? And I guess those people aren't going to try to sell their mansions. But if you're trying to sell your mansion is not as valuable as it would be if it was in West Hartford. Because it's in a distressed zip code. That means the value of your house is less. Right? The equity of your house is less because Hartford is worth less. Not worthless, worth less, heading toward worthlessness. You depress a whole city, what happens? Now you can start having a fire sale on the housing. If you all could only see what's going on. If you could only see what's going on. All right. These are the kinds of conversations we will have when we talk about communication, when we talk about transparency, when we talk about accountability. No one else is even dare having the discussion, let alone willing to talk about it. They can't. They can't. Scared. Strong focus on public relations and marketing. Lack of community engagement and awareness causes resources and assets to go unutilized or underutilized. The city website will be well designed with the minute update, with up to the minute updates on city proceedings. Community events, resources, timely information residents need, such as parking bans, road closures, etc. When the website is up, all right, there's stuff on there that's like out of date still. It's unacceptable for a city and a municipality to have digital information that is not timely and up to date on every single page. It's unacceptable. So whoever's managing that should be dismissed. So whoever's in charge of the person who's in charge of making sure that the website is up to date and managed needs to be terminated. Or get the website running. We're not talking rocket science here. There are kids in high school who can manage a website. There are kids in high school who can hack the city website. So I know there's kids in high school who can manage it. We live in a digital age. The only way that you can get away with what's happening is if it's by design. Now, if it's by design, okay, I can dig it. But if what's happening isn't by design, then it's by incompetence. Period. I dare anyone to challenge me on that. Not when you have resources and one's getting paid to do it. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. All right. Who's minding the shop? So communication is key unless you don't want to communicate. Right? Sometimes people don't want stuff out. They don't want things communicated. And then, I guess if that's what they're being told, then I guess that's why perhaps that's not happening. Communication is key to moving the city forward. We need to realign our communication efforts so that it can become part of the dynamic mechanism by which we move Hartford forward. Stick and stay. We'll hit priority number 3 as soon as we get back.
Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. It is time to clear the air and vote for a mayor who is unbought, unbossed, trusted, and accountable to you, the constituent. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I am an independent thinker, and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote on Tuesday, November the 5th, 2019, in the general election for mayor of the city of Hartford. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.
Wow, that bears repeating. Hit the instant replay button.
Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. It is time to clear the air and vote for a mayor who is unbought, unbossed, trusted, and accountable to you, the constituent. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I am an independent thinker, and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote on Tuesday, November the 5th, 2019, in the general election for mayor of the city of Hartford. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.
Let's continue. Priority number 3. We're going over the 5-point plan and the priorities for our realignment. Okay, we will edit each priority into its own little video and post them on the 5-point plan site. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're going over the 5-point priority. This is number 3. All right, this isn't like really, entertaining and all kind of sexy kind of television, but it's neat. So think of it as a course in Civics 101, and giving you some insight into what our administration will be like in terms of what we want happening. Okay, all right. That way you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting. The other candidates may not tell you what you're getting. Okay, and maybe we're giving you too much information, but I think I'd rather have too much information than none at all. Let me know how deep the water is. I don't need to assume that just because there's water there that there's actually a depth to it. You jump off the building and find out that the parking lot was flooded. That's not helpful. A little bit of foresight and a little bit of gathering of information before could save a lot of lives. Everyone jumping off the building into what they think is a pool of water when it's just 1.5 inches of water flooding on the parking lot. Okay, so everything that looks deep isn't. Priority number 3, mission-driven collaboration, working outside of our silos. Multiple efforts to address health and well-being of Hartford residents and neighborhoods are happening across a multitude of organizations in isolation. Areas such as housing, healthcare, education, job readiness, business development, to name a few, are all linked. Most are measuring their potential impact using different metrics, leading to little progress toward the goal of creating a vibrant city with thriving communities. This lack of communication and coordination across the city makes it challenging to assess the impact of initiatives and programs. This makes it difficult to prioritize needs and leverage opportunities. I believe in taking a proactive and purpose-driven approach to citywide collaboration across sectors: education, philanthropy, corporate, small business, and community. All right. So there's a lot of different areas out there where you can, if there was a better coordination, mission-driven, purposeful, intentional, working outside the silos, bringing people together so that we can work together as a community, all right, to move Hartford forward in everything. We have to do silo busting on all levels, across all sectors. All right. I'm going to work toward a holistic approach to an effective poverty strategy by imploring our institutional and community leaders to deploy themselves in a much bigger and meaningful way. No single institution can fix Hartford alone. All right? None. No one. All right? You talk to people sometimes and everybody's afraid of doing anything or talking about what it is they're doing because they're afraid, so-and-so's nonprofit is going to take advantage of this. Well, if I put that out there, next thing I know, they're going to take my plan. I ain't going to share my plan with nobody. The city's full of thieves. All they're going to do is take my plan. So your plan is moving how? How well is your plan going? It isn't. Okay? Their plan isn't working at all because they can't initiate their plan. Okay, when the truth of the matter is, if you had a plan that helped to mitigate reading issues like illiteracy, if there was 10 organizations focusing on our problem with illiteracy in the city of Hartford, if 10 organizations could each take 20 people effectively, all right, that would be what? 10 times 20 is 200, right? Alexa, what is 10 times 20?
10 times 20 is 200.
200 people. Alexa, what is 10 times 1,000?
1 times 10 equals 10.
And
2 times 10 equals 20. 3 times 10 equals 30. 4 times 10 equals 40. 5 times 10 equals 50. 6 times 10 equals 60. 7 times 10 equals 70. 8 times 10 equals 80. 9 times 10 equals 90. 10 times 10 equals 100. 11 times 10 equals 110. 12 times 10 equals 120.
That was interesting. I don't know where that came from. But artificial intelligence is beginning to have a mind of its own, which is not a problem until you're driving a autonomous car and it decides that 500 miles an hour is the preferred speed limit. It gets there on time. It gets you there. But unfortunately, in the travel, you had a cardiac arrest because you just knew something horrible was going to happen. If we had 10 organizations each servicing 1,000 people, that would be 10,000 people. And it is, for the most part, according to the data that I've been told, 50% of the adult population in Hartford is functionally illiterate. That would be more than 10,000 people. So, like, if every organization was doing that, if there were 10 of them, and they each had 1,000 clients, there still wouldn't be enough. I say this. Whatever it is that you want to do to help our economically distressed city, there aren't enough of you to do it if everybody got involved. So the last thing we need is people fighting one another over helping more people than they can handle combined. Right? So we need to work more creatively to leverage the things that we have so that we can move an agenda forward that is good for all. After all, the reason we're in this is to help people, right? Now, folks is only concerned about helping themselves. That's another subject for another day, and we can deal with that. But if people are interested in alleviating some of the hard-pressed issues around poverty, not maintaining poverty, eliminating poverty. We should have poverty elimination operations, not poverty management operations. We have too many places that are poverty management operations, which then profit off of poverty. And anytime someone's profiting off of something, they want that resource to continue. So it's little wonder that poverty stays right where it is, that crime stays right where it is, because both are revenue generators. So, do we want Hartford's population to become revenue generators? Or do we want to help alleviate some of the issues for which we have many of these silos in an effort to help resolve said issues? All right. So if you have one group over here trying to find job placement for youth, we should come up with a solution whereby the youth are constantly employed, right? Now, I believe as a constituent representative who's leading the charge on the executive level, that my job is to empower the constituents. My job isn't to give nonprofit agencies or profit agencies money and support to keep them forever alive with tax dollars off of the perpetual poverty of those in the city. I see it as we need to find ways to eliminate the economic distress by moving people from economic distress to at risk, to mid-tier, to comfortable, to prosperous. Okay? In cities and towns that are prosperous, they don't have all these kinds of things because there's no necessity for them. All right? So if we're helping people who are in trouble, we should all be working to put ourselves out of business. Right? You don't want a physician that keeps you sick so that he or she can prosper. You want a physician that makes you well so that you can move on with your life. I'm just saying. When unified around a common goal, once isolated initiatives become collaborative powerhouses. I could say that without fear of contradiction. As mayor, I will address the following. Bring together the different community and organizational stakeholders to ensure we are communicating and working in partnership on realistic and an integrated picture of a healthy Hartford. Build a culture that encourages everyone to speak openly about creating new initiatives, sharing resources, or even combining different organizations' initiatives without fear of negative repercussions. All right. So we're not going to try to pit one organization against the other. Because quite frankly, many nonprofit organizations, that's what's been done to them. All right. They've been given 1 pound of hamburger and then told, all right, best man eats tonight. right? That kind of a thing, just to keep them fighting among each other so that they won't come together to become more powerful in achieving the end game. All right. With the McCauley administration, our desire to help the nonprofit sector and anybody in trying to resolve issues that impact the city negatively is to do so on behalf of the constituents, so that the constituents realize a healthier, quote unquote, Hartford, if you will. Okay. What can we do to help you move that agenda forward? Because your effort helps the city meet its responsibility in making Hartford a place that, folk can thrive, economically, socially, and everything else. All right, so that's priority number 3. Mission-driven collaborations working outside of our silos. And that's not just limited to the nonprofit sector. It's a cultural, holistic approach to how we do business in the McCauley administration, in that you will have people working together, not working against each other or apart from each other, not knowing what anyone else is doing. You cannot run a city that way. All right. You just can't. You just can't. All right. Number 4, quality of life, public safety, and quality of life. All right. Well, we're at that place. We'll take our next break. And when we come back, number 4, quality of life. We're pressing toward the end here, which of course is economic and community development. All right. So 2 more left, and then we'll be done for the night. Stick and stay. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're watching Open Forum with me, your host, J. Stan McCauley, candidate for mayor here in Hartford, Connecticut, in the November 5th, 2019 election.
What happens in the voting booth stays in the voting booth. Even if someone wheels you up to the polling station after buying your groceries or paying you by the hour to door knock, you still can vote like an independent thinker. Vote like you're demanding better police accountability. Vote like you're demanding functioning schools that put Hartford children first. Vote like you're demanding your mayor puts Hartford residents and neighborhoods first. Vote like Hartford's government belongs to you, the constituent. Because to the party, you are just a vote. However, to me, you are a constituent, my boss, and I work for you. So when you go into the voting booth, have the courage to vote your conscience and vote for a man you can trust to be accountable to the constituents of Hartford. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I'm an independent thinker, and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote on Tuesday, November the 5th, 2019, in the general election for mayor of the city of Hartford. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. And remember, what happens in the voting booth stays in the voting booth. Escape the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.
Free your political mind. The political underground railroad to your political salvation, to your freedom. All right. Everyone doesn't want to make the journey. Some folk is scared. They're gonna go back. All right. Some folks are scared. There's people in this city who are afraid to actually go in a voting booth and vote their conscience. They'll be in the voting booth. They'll be wanting to vote for somebody, but won't because they're scared. And so, someone took them to get groceries on the way to the poll, promised to buy groceries for them on the way back from the poll. So they're going to vote for who they were told to. Right? Now, Miss Berkeley, I'm telling you, you need to vote for so-and-so. All right, now you remember that. Because, we going and then after that, I'm going to pick you up. Okay, I'm going to drop you off. I can't walk with you in there because they won't let me. But, remember to vote for so-and-so now. Then on the way home, I'm going to drop you off. We're going to take you to the Stop and Shop and get you something that you need. All right? You know how it's stuff like that. You can't see that there. So I can help you out on that absentee ballot now, Miss Betty. All right. Those kinds of things. See, the secret to voting, the secret to the absentee ballot is then your vote's locked in. Those are votes you can count. Unfortunately, there's no way to lock in a vote that can be changed at the last minute. So that can't be counted. But those absentee ballots, you could count 300, 200, 1,000. You got a solid 1,000 in the tank. That's, that can be a game changer. Okay. And, when it comes down to that kind of tactic in an election, that means that the city is just about gone. It's gone. Because that means that most of your voters are opting out of the process. All right. So, if you have 60,000 registered voters and only 10,000 come out, most people are voting not to vote. They're disgusted with the process. And so the windfall to that level of disgust is that it limits the number of people that vote to a controllable quantity. And then you can break it down and you can pretty much count what you need because you have control over. You have 500. This person over there got 500 votes. That person got 300 votes. That person got 250 votes. That person got 500 votes. This person got 500 votes. And these people will vote for who they're told. And when that becomes how elections are won, then it's not what's in the best interest of the people. It's what's in the best interest of the gatekeepers to control those votes. Because now those people become a constituency for the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper can then say to the party bosses, look, I can get you, or the potential people who are going to run the whole joint for the party under the guise of party. All right. So look, I can get you votes, but this is what I want in exchange. Because my people are going to vote for however I tell them to vote. So that's why I say you're just a vote. You're not their cause. You're not their mission in life. They're not working and giving you their paycheck every week. And they might buy you a thing or two, but they're not giving you their paycheck. Like they don't work all week, then bring $2,000 paycheck to you and go home and be broke. They don't do that. So you're not their cause. You're just a vote. But see, your quote unquote just vote is very powerful to the people who control you. So those who control the votes control political destinies of individuals who are in the popularity contest for position, prestige, the illusion of power that helps assuage their egos so that they can feel like they're important. Yet they do what they're told to do, always. When it comes down to certain things, you will do what you're told. Understand that, right? So, so the real power brokers are the people who can manage to deliver votes. Okay. That's why stuff like me is considered disruptive, like disruptive technologies. All right. But truth can be disruptive. Nothing more disruptive in a courtroom than a witness gets up there, starts telling the truth on the stand. Okay? So those of you out there who traditionally don't vote because you think you don't have a candidate worth voting for, well, now's your time to vote. Look us up at McCauleyforMayor.com. Do the research. Ask the tough questions. You have plenty of time to read stuff, to look at stuff, to listen to stuff, to sit down, call me up. We'll have a conversation over the phone, or we'll sit down and have coffee, and I'll lay it out to you, and then you can go and talk to 10 or 15 of your friends and family so that they can be enlightened and aware. We live in a social age, a social media age, where you can have these conversations with friends and families without people even knowing. So that activist votes, no one knows what they are until the election is over. So we're asking independent thinkers to step outside the box of party politics. Okay? Step outside the box of party politics. In order for the Harlem Globetrotters to have a winning season, they have to beat the Washington Generals every game. It takes two to play that level of basketball, a winning team and a losing team. Someone has to be the opposition. Okay, the opposition is as much a part of the machine as it's all the machine. Understand that, my friends. Okay, understand that. It's your government. Unless you take your hands off, and then it just free flowing, just a ship at sea, adrift. Okay? It's your ship at sea, adrift. The people on it are there to help you get from point A to point B and provide a level of service while you're there. It's called your government. And only you can demand better, hold your elected officials accountable, and they will deliver. Trust me when I tell you, they will deliver. But you got to do your part. You have to do your part. Number 4, public safety, quality of life. The mayor's number one responsibility is to ensure the protection of Hartford constituents, people in the city, its organizations, institutions, against threats to the general well-being of individuals and societies. To me, that's the number one job of the mayor. I believe that good quality of life issues go beyond public safety and include everything from physical health, family, education, employment, wealth, safety, freedom of religion and beliefs. Okay? I think in terms of quality of life, it's the mayor's responsibility to be a fair arbiter, right? A referee who's not taking sides one way or the other. Everybody has a freedom to express themselves. In our democracy, the Constitution of the United States guarantees us that. Okay? But to protect opportunity for the community, you're there to represent the community's needs and interests. Harvard's a poor community. That doesn't mean it's like somehow written in stone that it must remain poor. It wasn't always a poor city. At one time, Harvard was one of the most prosperous cities in the world. There's no reason why it can't be prosperous again. But it takes leadership at the municipal level to make that happen. That's all part of quality of life. So even though these priorities have titles, every priority applies to all. This is one big holistic approach to fixing Hartford. So as I talk about these priorities, I have to talk about them one at a time, but that's not necessarily the order in which they must be executed. The fact of the matter is it's execution of all simultaneously, working in conjunction with one another. Okay? I will implement an effective public policy strategy working with the police, fire departments, right? The city's health and human services departments, because effective public safety requires an engaged community, and I will strongly work toward establishing effective and meaningful community policing. You cannot talk about public safety in a community without talking about community policing, because at the end of the day, it's the community's community. It's not the police's community. It's not the policing agency's community. It's the community. It's the people, the constituents make up the community. Now, community, as I believe it to be, community is self-sustaining, right? It's self-educating, and it is self-policing. So in order to have a community, it must police itself. If you have an outside entity policing your community, that is likened unto occupation. So the community it's not your community. If you have an outside entity policing your community, it's not your community. If you have an outside entity teaching and instructing the community, it's not the community. If the community is not sustained by itself, but rather an outside entity, agency, whatever the case is, then it's not your community. So is Hartford sustained by its citizens, or is it being sustained by outside sources? Right now, we're being sustained by everybody else but us. Okay, so then it's not our community. If you have $50 million a year pouring into the city to meet our debt obligations, then it's not our community. Then that means everyone else has a not only a right, one might say they have a moral obligation to help, since they're footing the bill. So subsequently, we have the Municipal Oversight Review Board, right? So if you've got the MARB, right, looking at your finance, well, yeah, that's what comes with the $50 million. You don't get to decide how to spend that money. You are incompetent in spending money wisely. We're not going to give you another $50 million so you can jam that up. All right, so we'll come in, we'll bail you out, but now we're going to control how that money is spent. Just like when the state took over the school board. That's an indictment on Hartford. To me, I'm wildly offended by the need for that. That says we can't take care of our own house. I don't like that idea. What can we do to change that? What can we do to change that offense? It's like stink in the air. How do you get rid of that? You bring out some perfume and spray it? Well, that doesn't get rid of the source of this. Where's the source of the stink? Let's get rid of the source of the stink so that we can handle the problem. Okay? So if your community is not being sustained by the community, then you don't have a community. Who's educating the community? It's community educating the community? You know? Who's writing the curriculum? Well, right now, Hartford is actually getting ready to write its own curriculum, which I think is a forward move in the right direction. Okay? But public safety, who's policing our community? Are you policing your community? The community should be at the forefront of the policing, so that they're calling the police to be the officials that do the arresting, that they're comfortable in talking to the duly deputized agency to bring people who are offensive to the community standard to a place where they come under arrest and then stand before a court agency to hear and then pass judgment and be sanctioned by the community. The people in the community, and even those who are charged with offenses, ought not be looked at as a revenue stream, as a funding mechanism for the police department. Okay, so when the very community that the police are supposed to be engaged in protecting become the vehicle by which the police department is funded, where the city is tapping into the poverty and what gets generated as a result of the poverty, so that they can use that as federal funds that are going to come in, and you can pretty much predict what the level of crime is going to be, so you can predict how much money you'll need. And the federal government always has a little line of money available every year for cities in distress to help fight the conditions created from said distress. Okay? Doesn't have to be conspiracy. It could be the unintended consequences of the plan that went south, if you will. All right, so community policing has to be an integral part, and it is up to the chief elected official to make sure that community policing is in play. The mayor is responsible for making sure that happens, because he's the chief elected official. Everybody else works for him or her. All right. As mayor, I will address the following: establish an anonymous tip line, anonymous crime and violent reporting system that includes a mobile app to allow community members and individuals to report crimes. A truly anonymous tip line, so that if you make the tip, it is anonymous. It's not like the police are going to come up to your house in full uniform and start pointing at things, undermining your personal safety. Or even worse, where you have those corrupt individuals that are on the force, because every force has them. Okay. Anonymous, real anonymous, anonymous, not like a reasonable facsimile thereof anonymous. No, anonymous. All right. Which allow community members and individuals to report crimes. School students can even share concerns about issues like bullying, drug use, suicide, and planned school attacks. So that the people at the forefront are the people who are at the, who are in the data stream, who are actually on the ground where these activities are happening. And because they are part of the community, don't want to see these kinds of things happen. So they are willing to call law enforcement. Their job is to enforce the laws that the community has agreed upon. And they are legally authorized, duly deputized to arrest, detain, and bring to trial individuals who are offending their fellow citizens. That's what the law enforcement is for. All right. I would promote, recruit, hire, and retain police, fire, and other city staff. Are we promoting our own through the ranks? All right. Or is every time you get a new police chief or a new fire chief, they're coming from somewhere else other than Hartford? How is it that no one here is qualified to be in charge of anything? How is it that the citizens of Hartford can't have somebody who actually knows the city be in charge of the police department or the fire department? Or public works? Or finance? How is it that there are people in the pipeline who know probably more than any department head as how the organization, how the department, how the bureaucracy really functions? How is it that these people don't have the wherewithal or the intellectual capacity to be promoted? Why would anyone not want to use people who actually know how to do something? Sometimes it's people don't want to be, people don't want anyone around that knows more than they do, which is absolute folly and foolishness to me. All right. The only time that happens is when the people who are in charge have an inferiority complex. They somehow feel inferior in that they even have the job. Someone might ask them a question they don't know the answer to. That's like you hire a chauffeur, but you don't want him to actually know where he's driving you, because you don't want him to think that that he's smarter than you, and I don't know where we're going, but that's why I hired you to get me there. I need to be there by 5 o'clock. I'm not going to micromanage you. You're the driver, right? You charter a plane. You don't want a pilot that knows more about flying the plane than you do. Does that make any sense? You're the client. You're the one paying. Everyone in the city works for the mayor, and the mayor, and if the mayor has an inferiority complex and won't have people who actually know the system and know more than him, because they might make him not look. How's anyone ever going to make you look like you're not the mayor? You're the mayor, period. But and the subject, they work for you. Anybody who serves at the pleasure of the mayor, that's like crystal clear. That means their job is at jeopardy, always. Particularly in a state like Connecticut, where it's a right to work. You could be fired for any reason. That's why That's why there's such heavy union in this state. Because without the union, you have no protection. Your boss could come in one day and just not like the way your eyebrows are shaped. Next thing you know, you're out of a job because he's offended by your eyebrows. And that's why you need either an employment contract or a union. Okay? But department heads don't have a union. They serve at the pleasure of the mayor. That alone should be all the incentive people need to do their jobs. Okay? So I believe in promoting up. I think when you promote people upward, you give them incentive, you give them a reason to come to work, you give them a reason to strive to do better so that they can demonstrate their capacity and their capability to move up into the next position. All right, so I believe in promotion, then recruitment, then we hire, and then we retain. All right. If career development is a key factor in retention, then the city must focus on developing our staff in order to increase our retention rates. The costs to the city are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in loss of productivity around resignation, rehiring, and retaining process. So if somebody comes here, they stay a year, then they quit, and then you have to look for someone else to hire, it destroys the fabric of your workforce. People come to a place where all they want to do is just get to the end of the day and go home. It destroys morale. So if leadership is incapable of retaining qualified people in the leadership ranks, then it affects everything. Everything affects everything. Everything. Underline that, write it down, highlight it. Everything affects everything. There are no small, insignificant decisions. None. Nothing. Everything matters. Everything matters. Okay? Without a quality recruitment and retention program, hiring new employees becomes a never-ending cycle of wasted time and money. It's round and round and round. Okay? At any given moment of any day in the life and history of our city's workforce, I should be able to walk into any department as the mayor and ask the department head who would be your next likely person to take your position. And they should tell me without hesitation. I should be able to go and ask mid-level management, who here do you think would be most likely to become a department head if I were to promote them? And somebody should say the same person as the department head said. Right? It should be abundantly obvious who that person is. And it shouldn't be something that only the department head sees. It should be something that their colleagues see. That's the kind of city that we want, where the people who are rendering the public service have a sense of worth and value and enjoy the fact that they came to work. People want to be fulfilled when they go to work. And at the end of their work day, they don't want to feel like they were used or abused or thrown to the side like a wet Kleenex. Right? They want purpose and meaning in their lives. And part of the mayor's job is to make sure that the staff and the workforce have that kind of meaning in their life. I'm just saying, right? You should never have to threaten employees, ever. You should provide the kind of workplace that employees would come to. Even if they got fired, they come back as volunteers. That's the kind of work environment you want to establish. It can be established in the city of Hartford. The chaos at City Hall does not need to continue. All right? The fear, the oppressiveness of Big Brother watching things. Folks scared to talk at City Hall because it might get around that someone says something about somebody and somebody was whispering about someone and you can't talk over here because we think that this area might be bugged and all. What kind of environment is that? It's oppressive. If city staff and employees feel that way, how do you think they interact with the constituent? Quality of life is deeper than just, broken windows, though that's part of it. Okay? And when you talk about public safety, if the police department is dysfunctional, then how do you think they're going to interact with the citizens? If there's harassment within the police department between officers that are male, female, or that there's people who have a sexual preference that's different than others and they're attacked because of that in the workplace, where there's supposed to be zero tolerance? Well, if that's going on within the police department, how do you think the police department is going to interact with the citizens? Culture means something. So if you have a workforce culture that is corrosive and toxic, then their interaction with the constituent is going to be corrosive and toxic. That's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. Any employee that undermines the calm of a department needs to worry that the Mayor McCauley, is gunning for them. I don't care what kind of union protection you have. I don't mind going to court for wrongful termination. I mind going to court for police and staff doing stuff wrong against citizens. That kind of stuff I don't never want to do. I'm not going to court to protect some knucklehead cop who did his job wrong. Okay, but I don't mind going to court because someone was terminated for mistreating a constituent. Because the constituents come first. Okay? I'm not going to willy-nilly just fire people. Okay? But I'm going to be your issue. I'm going to be your issue. Because it's on me. It's not your supervisor. It's me. It's me. I'm the guy who you have to worry about. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one elected to provide the service. So everybody in there is an extension of me in terms of, my responsibility to provide services to the constituents and other staff and employees. Staff is doing wrong. Staff is feeling if staff feels that the workplace is hostile, toxic, or dangerous, then that is first and foremost their supervisor's problem, and it is secondly my problem. If it fails to be resolved, to me, that's not a human resources problem. That's the mayor's problem. And so I have zero tolerance for workforce toxicity, because I like stress-free. Anybody knows me knows I don't like stress. All right. I work on projects. I don't care what it is, a television program, shooting a movie, whatever the case is. Everybody knows Stan does not like last-minute changes. Everybody knows if you're going to bring a project to Stan, you're likely to get it passed. After you go through a little pushback from him, he'll cave and pretty much give you what you want. All right. But if you come and you don't have it together, it's dead on arrival, and it may not ever get another chance. Everybody's ever worked with me knows that. I don't like anything that disrupts my calm. Okay? And employees that are not having a good day disrupts my calm. All right? And so I take workplace calm very seriously. Very seriously. You're not having a good day and you work for the city of Hartford and I'm the mayor, call me. Don't even call your supervisor. This mayor will not be upset if you call. Go right to the top. Don't even monkey around calling your supervisor. Call me. Call me. See, as long as supervision knows that you could call the mayor and the mayor is not going to have a problem with you calling him, guess what? It's funny how things will be right, because they don't want to hear about your problem from me. Because, see, if you have a problem and you call me, I'm going to call your supervisor and ask them to come up to my office. I don't care where they are, what they're doing. They could be home asleep. Get up and come down here. I just got a very disturbing phone call. I need you in my office in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. If you can't get here in 20 minutes because you don't live in the city, I'll send a sworn officer to come out and drive you in with the lights on. But you got 20 minutes to get here. See, stuff like that makes things different. I'm serious. I'm serious. Okay, so that's if you work for me. All right. Now, there are some rare occasions where some of the people that are at the city don't work for the city. They get paid by the city, but they don't really work for the city. There are very, very few instances where that's the case. But I could put as much political pressure on people as is possible. Okay? I'm just saying. I will support the Civilian Police Review Board, which acts to review investigation of citizen complaints against police conduct and to make recommendations to the police chief in connection therewith. I will establish a civilian academy and allow the Citizen Police Review Board to do their job unhindered. Now, the fact of the matter is, many times the Civilian Review Board actually identifies issues, right? And then the issues are squashed. They don't go forward. Because if they went forward, it would be a liability to the city. Okay? So like the city could get exposure, legal exposure, ramifications. Okay? So it would expose the city to suit. Right? Like Center Earth. The Center Earth wrongful termination of contract trial is coming up. I think it starts June the 5th. Okay. $90 million. The city could be on the hook for $90 million for a wrongful termination I don't believe they ever should have been terminated. I've public about that. I actually shot a video that supports that. Right before the termination happened, we covered an event down at the stadium before it was opened, where it was postulated that it would be sheer, utter foolishness to discharge Center Earth from that project. But that's what happened. So now we're in court. All of this land's been tied up over that. If Center Plan wins, or Center Earth, if they win, that's $90 million. All right, $90 million. So that exposes the city. Now, so there are things that clearly, will come before the police review board. The police review board will flag it as action that is wrong. And as such, that means that the civilian who was wrong could sue the city and there could be a big payout. So what happens is that becomes squashed. Now, some might say, well, if you're going to be the mayor, you're going to have to look out for those kind of interests because you don't want the city to be sued. And you have an obligation. I have an obligation to the electorate, to the constituents. All right. I'm not going to put the city in financial risk and harm to begin with, because I expect all of the officers who are sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, and the city charter to know the law. What is legal and what is not legal, what actions are constitutional, which ones are not. The department policy is in line with our current ordinances and resolutions and charter and state constitution and federal constitution. And to be as professional in discharging their duty as members of force security for the president. In secrets, I want them to conduct themselves in a professional manner. If they're doing that, they'll have my full support no matter what they do. Okay, because they're employees that need to be in a stress-free environment too. But when you contribute to the disruption of the calm and toxicity, that's a problem. That's a problem. Priority number 4, public safety and quality of life. That's what we're going over right now here. Blight and abandoned properties. Urban decay, also known as urban rot, and urban blight, is the sociological process by which a previously functioning city or part of a city falls in disrepair and decrepitude. All right. So if you have blight, by definition, that means it's a level of dysfunctionality, disrepair. It's decrepit. All right. So if you have a blighted property sit next to your house, next to your property, or in a community, that means by the fact that those things are there, it brings down the community. The community is descended into disrepair. It's gone from functioning to disrepair. To allow blighted properties to remain blighted is to sanction the communities where that blight is. It sanctions them as dysfunctional, non-important communities. It sends the signal you're not even trying. That's why you won't see blighted properties in affluent communities. If something happens, they tear it down. They take it down immediately. Here it's just left up. All right. Then you can land bank. Okay, so instead of putting money in the bank, you put this land in the bank. The city gets a hold of it. Then the city can sell it. All right. I mean, the city has people on staff whose job it is to stop and block people from acquiring properties and rather maintaining properties in their dysfunctional, blighted state and condition. How does that help the constituents? This is a huge quality of life issue, and blight by definition is the manifestation of the decline of our community. It must be aggressively combated with intentional vigor. Intentional. Not some grand scheme to colonize the city. The scheme ought to be, how do we return these properties to a place that stabilizes the community for the sake of the community, first and foremost, the people who already live there. I will supplement and support neighborhood revitalization legislation to revitalize affected communities. I believe the NRZs can do that, but we'll get into that when we talk about community development. And it is not my intent to be a professor in terms of the quality of these positions. These are my standing positions as mayor and my platform and my desire to reprioritize the city. There are experts who know how to move this stuff forward. Okay. I am of the mindset that I don't know everything. I know what I want. And therefore, I have experts that help achieve those goals. That's why you have a finance department and people down at flood control and people who mow the lawns and people who do sanitation and trash collection, right? There's people who do all kinds of stuff in this city. There are hundreds of different things that people do. The mayor doesn't do all of those things. Mayor's job is to make sure that everybody else does their job, along with some other things, but primarily that's basically it, on behalf of the citizens. I don't need to be an expert in everything. I need to be an expert in making sure people know how to do their job and hold them accountable. That's what I need to be an expert in, among some other things, but okay. Use of technology responsibly. Use the tool of technology responsibly. I don't know whether that was fixed on the website, but this should be responsibly, not responsible. Proper behavior as it relates to the use of technology resources in public safety, education, or any other area of use within the city of Hartford should respect all established local, state, and federal laws, and all city staff and departments will be expected to use proper behavior at all times. All users are expected to use all technological resources or technology resources in a responsible, ethical, and polite manner. Okay. Now we live in a time when people are very, very concerned about the deployment of technology in all kinds of areas, from policing to fire to just technology all over the place. Those standards have to be set and established by our legislative bodies, and the communities and the hearings and all those things that go into establishing those rules, those laws, those regulations. My administration will uphold. I think that technology needs to be used extremely sparingly and responsibly. I don't believe that you should have a Pennsylvania Dutch approach to technology. All right. the Amish approach to technology. We don't need to be in horse and buggy because we're afraid of the technology. But we do need to understand that technology is a tool. All right. So when it comes to using technology and drones in an effort to better police the community, might it not be better to have the community policing the community? You know, we don't live in a police state where the police apparatus is more powerful than the constituents to whom the government belongs. But if you let technology get out of hand, it can run you. Instead of you running the technology is running you. I will establish a reckless driving and ATV task force. In recent years, more people have died as a result of vehicular homicide than homicide in Hartford. All right? You're more likely to get killed crossing the street or being at a bus stop than someone shooting you to death. This, of course, is unacceptable. It's an unacceptable trend that requires a focused resolution. I don't consider it an uptick. Anytime someone dies on the streets of Hartford, I don't consider it an uptick. It is the start of a dangerous trend, and we need to handle it as such with all intention and purpose. All right. Are we seeing the emergence of a public health issue? And what kind of resource do we need to bring to resolving it? So we need a task force to look into that. Commissioned by the mayor. What the city council does, that's on them. But as a mayor, that's one of the things I would use a task force for. Establish neighborhood block watches. A neighborhood block watch program empowers citizens to become active in their community. All right, want to tie community together, get them working with one another, respecting one another, knowing each other. Nothing does that better rather than a neighborhood block watch. All right. Become active in community efforts through participation in neighborhood watch groups. That's public safety. As the 1 o'clock hour approaches, we're getting ready to hit priority number 5. This is painful if you're trying to watch it as a one-off thing to do, but this is when we also record content for the website. And one of the things I want to break out are my commentary to the finished priorities. So each of these priorities will be, earmarked and identified and posted to the website under the 5 priorities, so you'll be able to hear my thinking around what's written. Okay, so it's kind of the initial concept and production of what's there, and then the response initially to the new finished product. All right, if you joined us from the beginning, you better understand that explanation. But in our effort to be transparent, what we like to do with all things that we venture upon is to give you the initial response and reaction to a thing, then develop what the official policy of it is. All right, and then once the official policy is there, they give you my summation and rationale and understanding and the way I'm thinking about that policy. All right. So we're doing this way because we had a participatory process in developing this. And now that this is finished and it's official on the website, released yesterday officially, I wanted to put this there so we have an updated version of what the 5-point plan was, because the old 5-point plan that's there went into initial response in detail for what was presented for people to work off of. Now that work is done, and I've signed off, if you will, on all of the stuff that's there. There are some areas that I was the sole contributor, and there are areas where there is the contribution of others very learned in the particular areas. All right. Many do not want their names associated with it because of what it is that they do, and I more than understand that they need to be neutral as it pertains to their associations, because they work with so many different people. And so I really, really appreciate their contributions. And I don't want to sit here and act like, it's all me, because it's not all me. It shouldn't be all me. It could be, but it shouldn't be. It should be a synthesis of buy-in from many different people within the community, because this is not about Stan's vision. This is about your vision, and we've made that very clear from the very, very beginning of this campaign, that I believe Hartford's success is in the people. All right? My vision is your vision. In the terms of my vision for Hartford is allowing your vision, many of you, your vision to come to pass. All right? It's not about what I think we need to do to fix a thing, because then it's my way or the highway. It's how we can work together to fix the thing, and how I, as mayor, can help you implement your fix. Because many times the fixes that people have are absolutely wonderful. I mean, they're wonderful beyond measure, but no one will listen to them. That's the biggest complaint I've had over the last 20 years. I won't say 30. Over the last 20 years, the biggest complaint I hear is that people with great ideas, no one wants to hear them, because the idea didn't originate there, or someone else can't take credit for it. So the idea just sits somewhere. That to me is unconscionable, because it's not about me getting credit. It's about helping those who have a need. We're going to take a break. When we get back, we will venture into our final priority, which is priority number 5, economic and community development. Stick and stay. You're watching Open Forum with me, your host, J. Stan McCauley, candidate for mayor in Hartford, Connecticut, in the 2019 November the 5th election. Stick and stay. We'll be right back. Hartford is run by the Democrat Party. It's a single party town. And it would make no difference if it was a 2-party town or if it was run by Republicans. All right? Anytime an organization runs a thing, the organization that manages or runs it wants to remain in power. When a political party runs the responsibility of governing your city, they're more concerned about remaining in power than they are concerned about providing needs for you, the constituent. It's your government, not the party's government. That's my only issue with the party. I'm a Democrat, all right? But I will never be embraced and accepted by the Democrat Party in theory, because I'm not towing the party line. You understand what I'm saying? So the party needs someone to run for mayor. The mayor is an instrument, and he is a component of the machine that is city government. But he's less accountable to you and more accountable to the party. And the party has an apparatus by which to hold him accountable. The town committee. All right. And then the chairman of the party for the local municipality. And then the chairman of the state. And then and on and on and on. And the president and all that other stuff. And so the state committees. All right. So they want to vet you. So you run for some local office first and see if you can be trusted, this, that, and the third. Can you be trusted to lie, cheat, steal, put out lies, take in cash? Can you be trusted to do that? If you can't, then we can bring you in. All right.
But we always got to hold you at bay because the power is tight. The power is like an aphrodisiac. People like it. It's worse than cocaine, right? They want the power. And once they get a taste of the power, they want to hold on to the power because the power is literally to give projects up or down. That's it, right? But the power is not meant for that. The power is there to manage the system on behalf of you all, the residents, okay? But when you as a constituent are not satisfied because there's people being murdered and it doesn't seem like anyone's giving it any attention, and you feel that your investigative agencies like the police department should be looking into these things, you then become a thorn in the side of the people who are supposed to be doing stuff. All right? Or you have a community review, like a civilian review board. And the civilian review board flags particular incidents that happen by police officers. But those incidents might be a liability to the city. So the city is crushing those things from going any further because if they do so, in theory, they will expose themselves to a liability and they could be sued for millions of dollars. So they never sees the light of day. So you, the constituent, who's supposed to be in charge of all of this, are kept in the dark. There's no transparency because they don't want you to know what's going on with your government because it is a threat to their power. So if you want any of that to change, you need to elect somebody who you can hold accountable, as opposed to the party installing someone who is beholden and accountable to them. This is not rocket science. Very simple. Very, very simple. Very simple. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't have the capacity to hold accountable your elected officials. They want you to think that way because then you accept the fact that you don't have accountability over it. But you didn't put them there. The party put them there. Understand? The party put them in office, not you. You think your votes put them there, but it didn't. It only takes 35 votes to get into the office of mayor. That's the town committee. If those 35 people come out and vote for them, they're in. They don't need you to come out. All right? So you have the illusion of choice, the illusion of a modicum of control that you think you have, that you find that the rude awakening comes 3 weeks after they get in office. You get the old royal shadow. Because you didn't put them there. You understand? If you put them there, they would be beholden to you. If you put them there. As an elected representative of the people, you are beholden to the people, not the party. And that's why Hartford is in the shape it's in. Because your elected officials are beholden to the party.
Well. Okay. Priority number 5. Economic and community development. Economic development is the process in which Hartford enjoys improvements in the sectors of the economic, political, and social well-being of our people. And by all people, I mean citizens of Hartford. Therefore, my administration will be intentional in an intervention endeavor with aims of improving the economic and social well-being of the people of Hartford, whoever they may be. I will quote the last paragraph from a report by the Economic Innovation Group titled, "From Great Recession to Great Reshuffling, Charting a Decade of Change Across American Communities. Findings from the 2018 Distressed Communities Index, dated October 2018. I quote, "Policymakers at every level should use this period of national prosperity to reinvest in communities and rekindle the dynamic ingredients of the economy, to make opportunity more accessible, healthy risk-taking more viable, and people more empowered to choose which community they call home. The scale of challenge demands an embrace of localism and a recommitment to the basic ingredients that created the world's most formidable engine of prosperity in the first place: entrepreneurship, education, competition, and civic commitment to community and place. This is not my opinion. This is what it says in the last paragraph of a multi-page report on findings of distressed communities, of which Hartford is one. If you look at this chart, which is on our website, you can see, maybe not clearly focused. Is that a camera I can focus up? Yes. Okay. You can see that little sliver. That's 06103. That tiny little zip code there. That's downtown. That's 06103 zip code. It is blue, though it may be difficult to see. It is considered comfortable. The red zip codes is the rest of Hartford. 06105, 06106, 06114, 06112, and the 06120. All of them are red. They are all in economic distress. You can see the surrounding zip codes, which make up the surrounding towns. East Hartford, Glastonbury, There's prosperity. There's mid-tier. There's at-risk. East Hartford, that orangish, the dark red is distress. The orange is at-risk. The yellowish, that is mid-tier. Then you have comfortable, and then you have prosperous. Okay. Every zip code is at risk in Hartford. All right. I don't know if you can read those. Okay. The reason we're in financial distress is because the people here are poor. They don't have any money. So you talk about economic growth for the region, but you don't deal with how to reverse the situation in Hartford. What you get is a very prosperous region with a core that is in utter distress. And when you come into Hartford, you see, it's the distress is very well camouflaged. Sort of like whited sepulchres, if I could use a biblical term. Okay? The grave looks nice on the outside, but inside it's just dead people. It's full of dead men's bones, but outside it's all whited and looks nice. You might even want to think of like a nice place to live, but no, you don't want to live in there. There's death and decay and destruction and chemical breakdown and chaos inside. Inside is not a nice place. Outside and it's housing a nice place, but no. So Hartford's poverty areas are nicely tucked behind things. They're tucked behind avenues and thoroughfares that look real nice. But the fact of the matter is, and the reality is, all of Hartford is in economic distress. That red is Hartford with the one island of comfort in the middle there. Not prosperity, comfort. Comfortable. When you have elected leadership that is focused on building and strengthening neighborhoods and communities instead of wanton and blatant colonization and exploitation of Hartford's obvious and hidden resources, the future of Hartford looks bright, brighter than bright. Okay? If you can see beyond the despair, Hartford is bright. But that takes elected leadership that believes in, one, the people of Hartford, and turning it around and believing that there's a quality and a caliber of individuals here worth championing. And some just don't believe that. Some have written Hartford off as just a place where the poor are, period. Life's never going to be better from them. And then they point to all kinds of data. You know, they point to data instead of doing something about it. Yeah, the data says if we take him off of life support, he's going to die. There's lots of people around walking, talking, and prospering who other folk thought were never going to make it, who were going to die. There was a horrible plane crash. I think it was out in Chicago or in the Midwest, someplace. I can't remember now. My memory fails me on that. But the plane crashed. It went in kind of like, kind of like this and rolled and caught fire, big fireball. And when the rescue crew went out there, the first initial thought was, what are all these people doing around in the middle of the airport where a plane crashed? Don't they know that there's a plane crash? And then it occurred to them that these people were the survivors. There were so many people that survived a plane crash that by all accounts, no one should have walked away from. And there were scores of people walking away from this plane crash. Now the statistics say that, they can't be out here. That's the problem with numbers and statistics. Instead of being a tool by which you make the adjustment so that you can better be equipped for victory associated with the challenge, it's used as the rationale and reason to not even try. As mayor, I will address the following. Strengthen the neighborhood revitalization zones. I see these as critical to the success of community development in the city of Hartford. I believe that the NRZs have been kept on life support to be used as tools to hinder growth versus helping to stimulate growth. I will take them off of life support and use this well-established vehicle by empowering the NRZs with staff so that they can function much like city commissions function. You can't expect them to be functional and deliver dynamic return if they don't have the resource necessary to do anything. Okay? So you have a project, it's got to go before the NRZ. I get that, and I think that's a great thing. But if the NRZ has people on it that don't know the first thing about development, how is it that they're supposed to render an answer or solution in terms of the economic impact of a thing? Now, I wonder if Alan Lazowski, I don't know if it's Alan, I don't know whether his dad's Alan or not, but Lazowski, okay, from Last Parking, I wonder if he took his plan before the NRZ, before buying the gold building. I doubt it. Though Apple took their plan before the city council, before they built the Apple Space Center out there. It's not really a space center, the saucer, the round Apple building, the world headquarters, and presented the plan before the city council. Wouldn't it be great if we had somebody like Amazon or Apple or Google coming before the Hartford City Council to present its plan for a piece of property, maybe in the Meadows on what they wanted to do in terms of a high-tech data farm, to put, jobs. Wouldn't that be a fabulous thing to have them coming before our city council to do something like that? So our city council could do things more important than pass legislation against the war. They're not involved in the war, and I guess that's all really good, but the resolution to be against the war does do nothing for Hartford citizens. Nothing. There's much more meaningful, relevant legislation that we need to be engaged in to move us out of economic distress. All right. So the NRZs is something I would focus on, and empowering them and convening a convocation on how they can play a critical role in revitalizing the city. All right. And I have a whole plan. All right. You want to know the plan? We sit down and talk about it over coffee, or wait till I get elected. But I have a whole plan on how they can be dynamic, relevant, and functioning. Every last one of them, including the defunct, halfway, non-existent South Green NRZ. All right. I would move Hartford incrementally to prosperity. Hartford is a distressed city. Every zip code except 06103 is classified as being in distress. I want to move Hartford from distressed to at risk, from at risk to mid-tier, and from mid-tier to comfortable, and from comfortable to prosperous. Hartford used to be a prosperous city. It can be once again. Let's make that our moon mission. All right. A moon mission is something that seems out of reach and there's no way you can do it. There's no way you can go to the moon. There's no way you can climb Mount Everest. There's no way you can do a football-sized vehicle that goes under the water to the depths that they do. There's no way you can make an airplane that big. All kinds of things that you, quote unquote, can't do that have been done. Let's make this our moon mission so that we bring the resources necessary to get it done. Because you can do anything if you want to. So the question you all need to be asking yourself is, why does our elected leadership not want this to happen? What is the benefit to Hartford continuing to be a city in financial distress? All right. As goes Hartford, so goes the region. Unless you contain what's in Hartford. Okay. So the regional approach to helping Hartford is to put some sort of program in place where people can take a little, mentorship program, and that'll hopefully help X number of people get a job. And that way they'll measure the success in that 20 people got jobs that didn't have jobs before. And even if they're menial jobs like picking up trash down by the riverfront, that's more than they had. That's not acceptable to me. That is not acceptable. Okay? It's not acceptable. Hartford has to develop an economy for Hartford. Listen, Hartford has to develop an economy for Hartford. We must realign our economic development interests away from real estate business, where the city seems to be in the real estate business, managing properties, buying properties, leveraging properties. Rather than that, they ought to be putting money into the pockets of residents who are economically distressed business, because an economy is about money flowing, and that money flowing around and around into the pockets. Okay? Without that happening, you don't have an economy. You don't have an economy. So if in theory the underground economy is keeping many parts of the city afloat, how is it that in the underground economy, none of that economy is selling property? It's not land banking. It's not leveraging properties and doing economic and doing doing development in terms of construction, building new things. But even if you build new things, if the things you built aren't putting money into circulation whereby there is an economy, then there's no economy. See, I don't need to be an expert in the economy. I know people who are. But more than that, we have a whole department in the city of Hartford whose sole purpose for being is economic development. And in what way are they developing the economy in Hartford? Now, whoever the current economic development director is, they better have a damn good answer to that question come January, or they will be looking for a new job. They got plenty of time to work. You don't have to tell the current administration, but you better have something on the shelf, because it's not rocket science. I'm not off in left field. There's plenty of economic theory out there to justify what I'm talking about, and there's plenty of way that you can make this happen. It's just a matter of what agenda are we following. That's all. This is my agenda. And it doesn't come at the expense of other things. We do this by attracting companies. We have to sell Hartford as a city whose residents are willing, ready, and able to work. Now, there's a lot behind that statement, which includes education. It includes the capacity and the ability to read. It includes understanding the mental capacity of many of the residents that are in Hartford. It includes individuals coming back into the city from release from incarceration, who may not actually have lived here until after they got out of prison and now they come back to Hartford. I understand all of those things, but you deal the hand you've been dealt. And there are ways to resolve this issue. It is not rocket science. What it is political will and a determination as to what matters in the city. What matters? We need a one-stop shop for economic development, whether or not entrepreneurs are born or created. They want to start a business. They need the same type of services and initiatives Hartford would give to a Fortune 500 company relocating to Hartford. How can we help their enterprise succeed? Now, if you have a company that's coming to Hartford, you're going to give them a tax abatement to hire what, 50 people? Yet those 50 people don't live in Hartford. The 50 people didn't come from Hartford, but you give them Hartford tax incentives to move their business to Hartford. So in what way is that helping the economy of Hartford? It may be helping the economy of the region, but as a Hartford institution, which the municipal entity of Hartford is, as the mayor of Hartford, as the city council of Hartford, as people who come to work and collect a check signed by the treasurer of Hartford, everybody in it ought to be worrying about how do we make this city better. It's the theory of the nest. Take care of the nest. If everybody takes care of their nest, then everyone will do fine. Hartford take care of Hartford, localism, right? Hartford take care of Hartford. East Hartford take care of East Hartford. If everybody focuses on making our centers right, then the whole region will do well. But we can't all be worrying about the region and no one's worrying about Hartford. West Hartford's worrying about West Hartford. You think blue back hat because they're worrying about the region? Could it be that the stagnation in the forward move of Front Street is because it might be a direct threat to the success of Blueback? But you have people from outside the region making decisions as to the economic viability of the city. That's counterintuitive to me. If your interests are in competition with the city of Hartford, then you have a competing interest, which means you have a conflict of interest. And those that have conflicts of interest in making decisions what's in the best interest of Hartford need to find someplace else to work. I believe it is time out for everybody worrying about everybody else except Hartford, particularly when you have elected representatives who are supposed to be moving forward an agenda in the best interest of Hartford. And I understand that we are one of 169 towns, and I understand that the urban centers have to deal with the suburban towns and all the other legislators and all of the other senators and all of the other state reps. That's, like I said, you deal the hand you've been dealt. You don't give in, you don't cave in because the majority may be against you. You sharpen your argument, you make your point, and you show them why this is necessary for Hartford. And you do so without putting Hartford in financial hawk and intentional receivership for the next 20 years. Does that benefit Hartford, or does it benefit the people whom Hartford owes money in terms of debt obligations like pensions and all those things? How do we honor our financial commitments while at the same time growing our city? A city that can fit inside O'Hare International Airport. It's too small to be this dysfunctional. A comprehensive plan to strengthen skill sets. Our residents should be at the top of the list. Hartford's residents should be at the top of the list when it comes to opportunities in Hartford as it relates to construction trades. This can be done by working in conjunction with the Minority Construction Council. So if you're talking about Hartford, which happens to be a predominantly minority city, all right, so you really never have to say minority. Hartford, by default, is a minority city, right? So how do you help those that are the most economically impacted prosper or succeed from construction opportunities within the city of Hartford? Now, they talk about community benefits, but I, quite frankly, don't find it anything near beneficial if you have legislation that says that if you're going to come here, you have to hire X number percentage of people. Then, the end of the project, you didn't hire anything near there. That's why you got your tax abatement. That's why you got your special program, because you're working with the city on some piece of city property or some city project like a school. And you got this with the understanding that you're going to do this deliverable. But then at the end, you didn't do the deliverable. So what should we do? Fine you $50,000, $100,000? That math doesn't make sense to me. Alexa, what is 40 times 8?
40 times 8 is 320.
40 times 8 is 320. So if you're making $40 an hour in an 8-hour day, that's $320. Alexa, what is 320 times 26?
1 times 320 equals 320. 2 times 320 equals...
Stop. Alexa, what is 320 times 26?
320 times 26 is 8,320.
3,800. Did she say 3,820? Let me redo the math equation here. Alexa, what is 40 times 180?
40 times 180 is 7,200.
So $7,200 in 180 hours. $7,200. So $7,200. Okay, let's just jump to the chase and make the point here. Okay, so if you make 40 hours a week times $40, right? We know what the answer is, but I like playing. I haven't used her at all during the program, really. Alexa, what is 40 times 40?
40 times 40 is 1,600.
That's $1,600 a week. Times 26 weeks, right? Alexa, what is 1,600 times 26?
1,600 times 26 is 41,600.
$41,600. That's one person working half a year. 6 months. 26 weeks. Not 52. 26 weeks. One person making $40 an hour, working 26 weeks, is going to make $41,000. And you're telling me that a $52,000 fine, that's cheaper than two people. So if my community benefit is you're going to hire 10%, all right, 5%. 5% of the workforce is going to be Hartford residents. If the 5% is, so let's say you have a workforce of 100 people. Alexa, what is 5% of 100?
5% of 100 is 5.
Alexa, what is 5 times 41,600?
5 times 41,600 is 208,000.
So $208,000 is how much the 5 Hartford residents would have in the Hartford economy. Okay? $208,000. 5 people on one job. 5% of 100. That would be $208,000. But the fine is only $52,000. So you get a $52,000 fine. It seems to me you saved $100 and, in terms of, maybe you didn't save the money, maybe you hired them from elsewhere and they weren't Hartford residents. But it's a loss of $150,000 loss to Hartford resident. And then the resident didn't get the money. The money goes to what? The city. And then the city gives the money to an entity to do training, to make them prepared for jobs that they will never get. Do you see how unlogical that thinking is? I mean, that's how I process what I've been hearing about the community benefit that they're currently talking about implementing in lieu of compliance with what we have. They're going to rewrite it to give them a way out of being held to a standard. Now, get rid of the law. Either people are going to hold up to it or they're not. If they're not, and we don't expect them to, then just get rid of it altogether. Don't play games with people. There is no community benefit. Just let them build and get what they can from us and go on about their business. All right? Let them give us a bouncy house and a cookout like they do, like politicians do at election time in Hartford. You put a bouncy house out and you cook some hot dogs and you win an election just like that. Get you 1,000 hot dogs, bouncy house, water balloons, a couple of juice boxes, and you'd be good. That can be the community benefit. We're not talking about the benefit to the gatekeepers who sell the community out. We're talking about the direct benefit to the community. Leadership that cares. Hartford's elected leadership can't be resume building. It must be deeply concerned about the general welfare of the citizens of Hartford. And it is about Hartford as it is about Hartford Incorporated. The people running for office, the people that you elect, the people who are in the positions of elected leadership have to care as much about the people as they do about the institution of Hartford. Hartford's financial situation is critical. It is important, but so are the people. And the people should not be, moving Hartford's financial situation should not come at the expense of the people. It's sort of like saying, in order for us to get out of debt, we got to kill 30 people in Hartford, put them on a burn them alive. If we did that, maybe an offering of 30 human beings, and our debt will go away. I mean, that's an unacceptable scenario. So we have to find another way. We cannot sacrifice people. All right. So when you think about the sacrifices that's happening to people and their quality of life, think of it like going in, pulling them out of their house, taking them downtown, and setting them on fire. Because that's what sacrifice is. It's not some nice, neat little comfy thing where they can be out of sight, out of mind. These are real people, real lives being affected. So if you want to move Hartford out of distress, then you have to find a way to build the capacity for the people here in Hartford to earn money. And this whole thing works together. From educating kids in kindergarten all the way down to who gets jobs here in Hartford. It's all one big thing. And that's why we need to reprioritize Hartford's focus so that we move Hartford forward in the best interest of the citizens that live in Hartford. I would be saying the same thing if I was running for mayor in Glastonbury. I'd have different tools to work with. If I was running for mayor in Greenwich, I would have the same concern for I'd be fighting for the millionaires in Greenwich, because those people earn their money and they have a right to keep it without being taxed to death. That would be my argument, because that's the constituency. But that's not the constituency here. So we have to do what's necessary for our people here. Not in Greenwich, not in New York, not in Los Angeles, not in Washington, D.C., not in Chicago, not in East Hartford, not in Glastonbury. Here. Here. We live here. And the elected leadership for Hartford needs to put Hartford first and foremost above everything else. Because the people of Hartford deserve representation just like people do in every other town. And they need their elected leadership to never sell them out. And that's one of the main reasons I'm running for mayor. Stick and stay. I'll be right back with your questions as we wrap this up. You know something? Hartford's strength is the people. They're independent thinkers and love their city. So how did Hartford fall into the hands of rogue policymakers? Well, to start, this rogue group spent nearly $1 million putting themselves on the inside and leaving you out in the cold. What if I told you that $5 can be the difference between a Hartford with hope and vision or a Hartford that is in perpetual decline, increasing crime, and an educational system going nowhere fast? Your $5 contribution to our team is a statement that you are investing in Hartford's future. Your $5 contribution to McCauley for mayor will make you a member of the team, and together we will explore the possibilities. More than that, you will be demonstrating that Hartford's people are ready to make a stand. Withstand. Our goal is to get the support of 5,000 people who live, work, and play in Hartford. I'm asking you to make a bold statement by contributing $5 right now, today. If you believe in Hartford and its people like I do, make that contribution. And together we will show Connecticut that the people of Hartford care enough to do our part. We are ready to pick up the ball and run. The people of Hartford are back in the game, and we're in it to win. My name is J. Sam McCauley, and I approve this message.
Okay.
Okay, we've got about 15 minutes. All right, let's start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. We'll do it the opposite. Usually we start at the top and work our way down, but because we have spent most of our time with this documenting these comments for the purposes of breaking them up, I'm sure the people who were watching us in the beginning aren't here to see those questions. So let's work on what are we doing here? What's going on? Let's try to focus. Okay. 2 o'clock, you're right. Yes, 2 o'clock before we're kicked off. I need to be able to see better. Okay. Yes, we're live. Clock's at 1:16. That was, of course, a little time ago. Yeah. Number one, our residents should be at the top of the list. Yes. Policymakers at every level should use this. Yes. Center plan should never have been chosen to build the ballpark. And their lack of capacity and experience was compounded by a lack of honesty and transparency. Spoken like a lawyer, said Luke Braun. And let's take a look at let's really. Okay, so let's look at that. This is a direct quote. I trust the source. So this is a direct quote. Quote, center plan should never have been chosen to build the ballpark, comma. All right. All right. So we give you that. But they were. Right? They should not have been, but they were. So, and now what? Then it goes on and says, and their lack of capacity and experience was compounded by a lack of honesty and transparency. The nerve. This is sort of that's worse than the kettle calling. That's worse than the that's worse than the fire calling the kettle black or whatever, however it is. Okay, now, first of all, that doesn't say anything. All it says is, one, they lacked experience and capacity. My pushback to that was, well, for somebody that had lack of experience and capacity, they managed to put together one of the best ballparks on the planet. For minor league baseball, the people who came in and cleaned up didn't do that. Center plan did that. So here's somebody with no experience and lack of capacity. That doesn't mean they can't do the job. That sounds the same reason and rationale they give for not hiring people in Hartford. Well, they lack the capacity. They've never done it before. Therefore, they can't do it. And they can't do it, right? So should you give them a chance? Maybe, maybe not. So for someone that had no capacity, no experience, totally inept, look what they were able to do. I always use the analogy, if you're trying to do something, there should be evidence of it. The evidence is that while he contends that they weren't able to, it seems to me they did a pretty good job. At least that's the argument I would make. So it doesn't say that they didn't do the job. It makes the charge that they lacked honesty and transparency. That could be said of the mayor right now. I've never called him a liar, but I have a lot of friends that have called him lying Luke in public. I have friends of mine who have said that in public to him. So, I mean, anyone can make the charge that someone is dishonest, not dishonest, lack of honesty and lack of transparency. The audacity of that comment is breathtaking. But spoken like a lawyer, because at the end of the day, the comment doesn't say anything. It says nothing at all. It sounds like something you say because the press asks you for a question, you have to say something. Okay, I'm reading up through, make sure I don't miss any questions or comments. Okay. Yeah, a lot of incompetence. You got that right. Sad what's going on. No discussions happening. Would you have a school administrator steal school equipment and try to flee the area? Would you have a school administrator steal equipment? All right, let me do this, because that could be a question to something that was said before. So I'm going to go to the top of the list and read my way down. We have a few more minutes before the alarm goes off. Hello, Deborah. Oh, my goodness. Deborah, well, how about that? Hey, Deborah. 5-point plan. I believe that the following citywide priorities. Yep. I just want to make sure we clean this up. Make sure we give every answer. We'll look at everything before we leave. All right. What are your key performance indicators? How do you now determine, measure which schools are failing? What will be your measure of school system improvements? Well, that's a real good question. I will have them, but I don't know that it's proper for me to just say what that might be right now without having some consultation and conversation with the Board of Education and the superintendent. Because I need to know exactly what the possibilities are and where we're starting at and where we can be inside of a year. I have a cursory knowledge of what's going on because I cover a lot of what's happening, but I've not had that conversation. So, the mayor can drive agenda, but it is not the mayor's job to be the superintendent. And they are in the process of putting together a vision. There is data and there is rationale. There is a plan. And I think I need to work in concert with that plan, if indeed the plan is something that I think will work. Now, I've been at almost all of those planning meetings, and the plan seems very solid to me. I know there are a lot of people who have some issues with it, but quite frankly, a lot of those people were not at the meetings. That's not to say that they didn't sit down and watch hours and hours of conversation that I that I recorded. But quite frankly, even though I recorded a lot of meetings, I did not record all of the meetings. There are some meetings that I wasn't at. Okay. And there were other meetings that were not meetings that get recorded, that were like committee meetings. And so while all these meetings are held in a way that you can attend them as members of the public, most people don't. Most people don't come to the public meetings, let alone the committee meetings of the board or the city council. So what's there wasn't just the result of people throwing darts at a wall. What's there is the result of some very well thought out, well reasoned research, data crunching. A lot has gone into establishing what's there, to the degree that there's teachers that have to be taught certain things. Right now, one of the things that the school is embracing is restorative justice. In order for restorative justice to happen, the teachers actually have to rethink how they think, what they think. There have been contracts that have been negotiated and settled upon in order to help all this stuff be implemented. So there are a lot of different things that have to be considered when one establishes what will it be to determine whether or not it's working. Okay, I can give an answer to that question, but I can't honestly give it until I've had a conversation. Once I've had the conversation and heard the rationale, once I determine or hear what the success metrics are, then I can determine with relative ease what I will need to establish whether this is working or not. And all of the flowery talk and BS will not get past me. Okay. I'm a great listener. For many, many years, I've kept my mouth shut. Don't confuse the shut mouth and lack of comment for the ability to be able to synthesize and analyze what it is that you're saying and whether or not it makes sense, whether you're telling the truth or not, because I can. So I will know. And I'm reasonable on time and deliverables. But once the time has been set and the deliverables been earmarked, then why aren't we here? What do you need to get here? All right, how long is it going to take us to get here? If we ain't here, boom. All right, just like with the center plan in the baseball stadium. All right. The court will figure it out. But It seemed to me that there were a lot of things that were thrown at them at the last minute that didn't make sense in an effort to make it look like they couldn't do the job. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but the court will hear all sides of the argument, and then they will render a decision. And I guess maybe the city can appeal if they lose, or Center Plan can appeal if they lose. But I don't think it was wise to terminate the work when it was 90% finished. What do you gain? Let them complete the work, then take them to court. But to get rid of them like we did, we tie up years and years and years. Now we're behind in moving forward on the Downtown North project. That should be well underway by now, but instead it's just sitting around languishing. All right. So there has to be some thought given as to, was that done in an effort to hinder the forward move? Nothing stops progress like somebody, jamming stuff up. And this city is expert level practitioner when it comes to stopping projects. Now we're years behind. That, to me, I don't understand. I just don't understand it. All right. I could postulate all kinds of rationale for it. It goes off into the realm of conspiracy and all kinds of other stuff that I won't say on a television program such as this. But it just makes sense. All right, we should be running out of time any second. You have people on your team who have always embraced the concept of a holistic approach to family, which include our children's education without giving her name away to public consumption. She is a retired teacher who taught in places as tough as school systems in Harlem. No doubt about that. We've got a very robust team. We have a great team. I have a great team of people behind me. And as great as my team is, we have a system already in place called the Hartford Public School System, and the municipal side of the city of Hartford and its employees and its staff. These people are not incompetent. Their leadership is. And that's the problem. They are bureaucrats who will do whatever the function is. But in a system like government, if you don't have leadership, it will not move forward. It just won't. And so Hartford needs a change in leadership. People thought they were going to get that change with the current administration, and it did not come. So, here we are. That is my never to be humble opinion. If I am wrong, you should be able to identify and trip over all of the accidental attempts to make Hartford a better city for the neighborhoods. You should trip over them because they should be attempted and did not succeed type stuff. I challenge you to find that. Okay? And unfortunately, you can't take credit for stuff that's been in play. That's my never to be humble opinion. My friends, our time together has come to an end. I think I've answered everybody that had questions. There's a conversation that's happening between some of the people that are here. Doesn't look like any questions. Looks like some comments. And of course, next week when we do this, it'll be open forum from beginning to end. We're pretty much done in establishing what it is that we need for our website in terms of video content. And so that's pretty much done. I had to get this out and on. It would take me like 4 hours to do it, as it did tonight. So that's why I do it now, okay? But our time together has come to an end. We have 6 minutes before, our carriage turns back into a pumpkin, when Facebook will cut us off at the 4-hour mark. It's 3 hours, 54 minutes, and 46 seconds. I enjoyed being with you tonight. I hope it was meaningful, and I am certain that it will be beneficial as we go forward, because people will be able to check out the remarks and comments once we finish editing it, and it should be okay. My friends, God bless the city of Hartford. God bless you, your families, your friends, and your loved ones. We will see you here next Thursday night as we do it all once again. Have a good night.